introduce our speaker who will be talking about overcoming obstacles. Michael is an alum, and I hope that his speech is beneficial and inspiring and engaging for you as you embark on this journey. So Michael, it's all yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Ebony, so much. And let me first start off by, can everybody hear me okay? Can you see me? Yeah, my internet has been a little, there's been roaming blackouts in Sacramento, but I have two connections. Welcome everybody, welcome to college. This is huge. Despite what is going on in the world today, you are here. That deserves a huge round of applause, and just like truly shows, I mean, the resiliency you all have, right? The work ethic you have put into today. So congratulations on being in college. I want to start off by thanking Dr. Ebony Turnbull, Stephanie Lane, Dr. Merriweather, and the HSU leadership for allowing me to be here today. Truly appreciate the opportunity to be able to share my story, and like in hopes that my story can help you to overcome some of the obstacles you will face while you're in college. And also give you the motivation you're going to be able to need, right, to complete. Going to college is half the battle, completing is the other half. A little bit about myself, I'm Michael Lynch. I serve as currently the co-founder and CEO of Improve Your Tomorrow. Improve Your Tomorrow is an education nonprofit that helps young men of color get to and through college. We serve about 2,000 young men in Sacramento County and Stockton across Northern California. I mean, first off, I'm saying that I am a proud Humboldt State University alum. I'm gonna say that again. I'm a proud lumberjack, y'all. Super proud class of 2011. And a little bit about me before we kind of jump in. After Humboldt State, I got a master's degree from Sacramento State. Or after I graduated, I went to Washington, D.C. To work as a government relations fellow for a nonprofit called the Campaign for Youth Justice. And after that, I came back to Sacramento, where I participated in a program called the Capital Fellowship Program, where I was a Senate fellow in the state Senate. Then I stayed on staff in the state capitol and worked for about a total of 6 years, working on a variety of different public policy issues. And then in 2013, I created and co-founded Improve Your Tomorrow, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. I also think it's important to note before I get started that I am a first-generation college graduate. And many of you all, right, are the same as I was. And one of the first people in my family to go to college. I was the first person in my family to graduate. And I'll share that a little later too. So before we jump in, I'm going to share just a little bit of an overview of today. What I'm going to talk about. Why am I here today to share stories, and hopefully that'll be able to motivate you and the obstacle that you will overcome. I'm going to do that through a handful of different stories. But before we start, I want you, I know this Zoom platform, you all have been Zoomed out since March when your school shut down, and now you're starting college in Zoom. But I want to try to engage you a little bit first. If you can, in your chat box, let's put one word on how you feel about entering college. We'll take like 15 to 20 seconds. If I can just see that good, excited, nervous, stressed, apprehensive, stressed again, nervous, okay, ready, lost, excited. There we go. They're coming in, nervous, anxious, right? Nervous again, excited, overwhelmed. So like the feelings are mutual in a sense of, you'll see that there's a common narrative across everybody who's on this call today. You all are all feeling stress. You are all feeling anxiety. You're all feeling overwhelmed. And when starting college, that can often be exacerbated. So I'm gonna jump to the end of my speech. And what I want to be able to share with you, it's a handful of different strategies that can help you to overcome like some of the obstacles you will face. You're starting college right in a pandemic that hasn't happened to this scale since 1918. So what you're feeling is completely okay. But what you're also going to experience on top of this pandemic, on top of COVID-19, is you're going to experience other obstacles along your journey. And I'm hoping that you can be able to write down these three strategies. Passion. Be able to, by using passion, by believing in something beyond yourself, by having a vision for your life and setting goals, and using that passion is going to help you to get through the obstacles and the tough time that you will face coming up in your freshman year. The next one I want you to write down, remember, is empathy. Empathy is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And this is a powerful strategy to be able to take the blows that life in college will throw at you. The last one is resilience. And resilience is no matter how many times you get knocked down, you got to get back up. Because a college degree is going to afford you opportunities that your parents may have not had. So a little bit about my story, right? Who am I? Who is this guy, right? Talking to you about these 3 strategies of empathy, passion, and resilience. Before you kind of learn about me, it's important to know like where I came from. I grew up in Stockton, California. I don't know if anybody on the call from the San Joaquin Valley or San Joaquin County. If you are, put it in the chat box, right? 209 in the house. Yeah. So from K through 8, I grew up in Stockton. For those of you who know Stockton, Stockton is often not an easy place to grow up. I think in 2008, it was labeled as one of the most miserable cities. In 2011, it was labeled as one of the most miserable cities in America, right? And that was not what I got from Stockton, but it was a place that was difficult to navigate, especially from, right, a young man who came from a household that wasn't always consistent and provided. So for me, a little bit about like myself, a little bit about my past and where I am. But my dad, I grew up in a single parent home. I was raised by my dad. My mom is white. My dad is black, and my dad was this phenomenal figure in my life. He was the reason why I was able to get to college. He was the reason why I was able to work in the Capitol. He was one of the reasons why I provided the motivation, right, for me to create a nonprofit that helps 2,000 young men of color get to and through college. My dad grew up in a 2-bedroom home in Compton. He was one of 7 boys. He was the first person in his family to go to college, to leave Compton, but didn't graduate. He had a baby early on in his academic career. He had several babies early on, or me being the 3rd one, that prevented him from completing. And what that created was a series of economic challenges growing up. But in neighborhoods where there were very few of me, right, the folks who looked like me, who were college graduates. Another point talking about my mom. My mom grew up in San Jose, California. Right, she was raised in a small Jewish family, but my mom had a lot of different mental health challenges that really affected me early on. I mean, my mom didn't graduate high school, right, and has lived a life of hard knocks. Growing up, I mean, she was both verbally and physically abusive to me, and it was something only recently that I began to reckon with, and how when my mom was in my life, she left when I was just a kid, but when she came back, it was constant chaos. I mean, she was verbally and physically abusive to myself and my siblings. I mean, there was constant times where the police would come to the house because of consistent domestic violence. My mom was hitting my dad. So I grew up in an environment, like, needless to say, that was unstable. Some of you all may be able to identify with this story. Coming from a place where success is not often recognized. There's often not people who leave from the community who go off to college and eventually complete it. I want to talk about my place in my family. So I am the youngest child of my dad. I'm one of 5, the youngest child of my dad, and I'm the middle child of my mom. And growing up, being my mom was white, my dad was black, the communities I lived in were diverse, but I struggled with identity, for a long time, trying to figure out who was I? And that played into some of the trouble I got into school, right? That played into, my grades not always being the best they could be. That played into me not being able to truly find myself, and really truly until I got to Humboldt State. To being able to be surrounded by a community of folks who are going to be able to guide me along the way. I want to talk to you about some of the challenges I faced as a kid, and some of you all, again, may be able to identify with this. But, being that my mom had severe mental health challenges, she was verbally and physically abusive, right, to myself and to my siblings, that affected all parts of my life. And in particular, when I was a junior in college at Humboldt, this was 2008, I had to come to a point in my life where I had to forgive my mom so I can move on and live a life that I wanted to be able to live. Because it was affecting all areas of my relationships, right? It was affecting my school. It was affecting on the football field. I played football, right, at Humboldt State, go Lumberjacks. It was affecting all areas of my life. So I decided, listen, I'm going to come home right to Stockton. I'm going to talk to my mom about, hey, listen, here are some of the ways, in which you hurt me. And hopefully that we can be able to reconcile. So I get to my mom's house, and the first thing I do when I walk in, she gives me a stack of papers. So, Michael, before we talk, can you read these papers for me? All right, as I'm sitting down at the table where she's right there next to me, I'm reading through the papers, and I'm recognizing these are papers from her psychiatrist. She had just had a recent evaluation. She was finally starting to deal with some of her mental health challenges. But in that papers, I read that my mom suffered from severe depression, that she had overcompulsive disorder, right, and that she was suicidal. And the only reason that she didn't kill herself was because of her kids. That was what taught me empathy. Like, it taught me that I had to begin to put myself in my mom's shoes and her experiences, right? Help to forgive her so I can be able to move on in my life. And that was tough. And that was tough at 20 years old, and that conversation happened in 2008. There was a process where I had to begin to build empathy that helped me get past the trauma like when I was a kid. Growing up in a single parent home, you know, money was tight, right? Needless to say. I mean, there were plenty of times where I came home, right? The lights were cut off, right? We had no phone, right? Sometimes we were a 2 meal a day family. My dad worked long hours in his office. My siblings and I, even by ourselves, we always didn't have food to be able to make dinner. You know, so those experiences really carried me. But in particular, there was one situation again when I was in 8th grade. It was a really tough time for me as a kid when I was 13. I was trying to find myself and who I was. But I'm walking home because I stayed after school to get help in algebra because I was failing algebra. So I stayed after school. As I got off the bus, my friends ran up to me like, Michael, man, hey, where are you going? I'm like, man, I'm going home. What are you talking about? And they just laughed. All right, so I turn the corner. I go to my house, and on the door, there's a big red sticker that says evicted. I was homeless. So at that point, I was dealing with a mom who was gone, and when she was back, it was chaos in the house. I was dealing with a mom who was verbally and physically. I was dealing with a dad who was raising his kids by himself and trying his best. And at that point in my life, we didn't have a place to live. At 13, I decided that something had to change. Because I didn't want to live the same life, right, that my dad was living now. At 13, I decided that something had to change. And that was when I began to focus in on that passion and resilience. I decided, listen, despite how much I get knocked down, despite what's going on around me, I can't control, I'm going to focus on what I can control. When I do get knocked down, I'm going to get back up. Because going to school the following day and knowing that you have no place to go home to, that can be rough. And again, some of you may be able to identify with this. Like, some of you may be able to identify with a parent who's both, verbally or physically abusive. Like, those experiences can play on you as a young person that can impact so much more. But you got to be able to dive in on those strides, that passion, the resilience, and empathy to be able to get you through those tough times. But that passion, I didn't get you till college. I'm going to read you this quote real quick before I go on right to the next part. Be grateful for all the obstacles in your life. They have strengthened you as you continue with your journey. Those challenges I faced as a kid all prepared me for college, and the challenge it was going to be able to do to be the first person in my family to graduate college. So the issues and challenges with my mom, right, not having a place to live, right, money being consistently tight and not always there, all those challenges prepared me for college. So I get to college, right, I'm living my dream, and I'm playing football in college, and that was what, motivated me to want to be able to continue. And my freshman year, I'm in training camp, and I get a phone call that said one of my friends was shot and killed. So I came from a high school where, the high school at that point, I had moved to Sacramento, and I went to high school at a place called Valley High School in Southside. I don't know if anybody from 916, if you want to put it in the chat, but I went to a school, Valley High School, where college success was very rare. College attendance was very rare. I came to a place where when I had started college, I was the first person in my family, or I wasn't the first in my family, right, to go to college. But my brother had dropped out of college. My sister dropped out of community college. My mom didn't graduate high school. My dad dropped out of college. So I didn't have a bunch of educational pathways to be able to show me how to do it. Then alone, I went to a high school where there were very few folks who went directly to a four-year university. I mean, in the school, Valley High School, where 99% of the students were students of color. I mean, I was one of 5 black males going to a four-year college. Right, so I was rare. So I get now to my freshman year, and I get a phone call in the first week of training camp saying one of my friends was shot and killed. At that moment, I remember having two feelings. I'm 17 years old, remember, I'm a freshman in college, and I'm trying to continue my dream to play football and be the first person in my family to graduate college. But at that point, it was a turning point. I was sad that I had lost a friend, but I felt guilty that I was away from the neighborhood, away from my community, if the same stuff was going to happen over and over again, unless something changed. So I had to be able to, again, like lean back on those experiences that strengthened me as a kid. Lean back on those experiences that allowed me to be here today to continue. And so I had to really hone in on that strategy of resilience. It's like how many times I get knocked down, I was going to be able to continue. Right, so I get through that, right, tragic incident with my friend. I use it as motivation to be able to continue to fight, right, and be the first person in my family to go to college. Then during my first semester, for some reason, I get the brilliant idea I'm going to like take an elective in engineering. Don't know why I did it, but I remember sitting in a class of about 200 to 300 people, right, and being completely lost, about to fail the class because I was afraid to ask questions and possibly be just like my dad, my brother, and my sister, right, and be a college graduate, and be a college dropout. I was like, man, what do I do? Right? Do I ask for the help that was Nick? I didn't understand what was going on. At the high school I went to, I didn't always necessarily have a reputation for preparing our folks for college. So I get to college and I'm lost and I'm feeling inadequate. I feel like everybody else around me is doing well except me. So I had to lean back on that strategy passion. I knew when I got that phone call that one of my friends was shot and killed, I knew that eventually I was going to come back to my community. I was going to come back to Sacramento. I was going to come back to Stockton. I was going to help other young men of color get to and through college because college is my gateway to a better life. So I had to say, you know what? I got to be able to pass this class. If I'm going to pass this class, I have to be able to ask for help. Right? So I had to be able to lean in on my community and begin to do something that I didn't do a lot of. I had to lean back on those experiences to take me through at that rough time. So I get past my friend dying. I get past, right, I eventually passed the class. I can go on to the following semester and not be a college dropout. But then I get to a place again during the end of my freshman year where I'm living in the dorms. I get the brilliant idea that it's a smart way to be able to save money to move out of the dorms, right, by getting my own apartment with a friend. Well, I get the apartment. My friend bails on me, right? He does like, so I signed the lease, right, to be able to pay this monthly allotment of rent. And a couple months later, I didn't have the money to pay rent. So again, I was homeless. I had no place to go. So I had to lean back. So listen, I had conquered this before when I was in 8th grade. It was going to be a way where I was going to be able to conquer this again and be able to find a place to live. So I go to my friend's house. I stayed for a couple of days, but you quickly find out who your friends are, who they aren't, because he was quickly tired of me sleeping on his couch. At that point, again, I had to find a place. So I go to a motel. There was this Motel 6 I stayed at. I remember like yesterday, being 18 years old, right, one of the few people in my high school to go straight to a 4-year college, right, and sitting in the hotel room crying with a Bible next to me and praying. So, man, listen, this thing has to get better. And my freshman year was just filled with trials and tribulations and hills I had to climb through to be able to be where I am today. Now, eventually, a family friend let me stay with her, for the next couple of years. Now, right, that helped me get through, right, and eventually graduate. But it was a freshman year that was filled with obstacles. I strongly believe that my childhood prepared me to be where I was in college, and that freshman, getting through that freshman year of college around the rest of college. But all those experiences played into the person who I am today. So I want to be able to conclude, I don't know if you all ever saw the movie Rocky. If you have, put it in the chat that you saw it. But in Rocky's first movie, he has like 10 Rocky trilogy. But in his first movie, Rocky is this scrappy boxer from Philadelphia, right? He gets beat up. He loses more than he wins. And all of a sudden, he gets an opportunity to be able to fight the world heavyweight champion, Apollo Creed. It's a momentous scene, right, where he's fighting Apollo Creed. He's getting knocked down all throughout the fight. Like you just name it, he's getting beat up. Apollo Creed is bigger than him, he's stronger than him, he's better than him. But Rocky never quit. All through his career, he had a lot more losses than wins. Gets his opportunity. He got knocked down 10 to 15 times by the time the 14th round came. Rocky hasn't quit. So in the 14th round, Rocky gets hit, bam, 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 and he falls. And the ref comes up to him, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Eventually, Rocky gets up. At that moment, him getting up, he defeated Apollo Creed. Like Apollo Creed's face, if you ever have the time, right, find a YouTube clip, Rocky 14th round. Don't do it right now, though. We got a couple more minutes, right? But find the clip. You'll see Apollo Creed's face. Just go down. He was defeated because Rocky wouldn't quit. That is just a metaphor for life. How many times are you going to be able to get knocked down and be able to get back up? How many times? Because life will throw stuff at you. But how many times are you going to be able to say, listen, despite what comes at me, I have a dream of, right, of being an engineer, right? I have a dream of being a professor, right? I have a dream of being a doctor, whatever it is, you have a dream. Life is going to come and throw some obstacles at you. So you got to be able to come back to something, right, to get you through those tough times. Because it will come down to, a lot of it will come down to in your life, especially your freshman year, which is so critical for everything else, right? Is how hard you're going to be willing to work. How much time are you going to be willing to put in on your studies to make sure that you're successful? Because your life will largely be determined by the choices you make on a day-to-day basis.
Michael, I think we lost you for a second there. It's okay. We are going to give Michael a chance to log back in. We apologize. Let's just give him a couple of moments. Thank you all for your understanding and patience and flexibility. That's the great thing about technology, is that sometimes those fun things happen. While we see if he can jump back in, I will very quickly, because I've seen a few comments come in regarding the schedule and where we're supposed to be when. And so I'll just drop in the chat one more time, the schedule for the day. You will be on this main Zoom link majority of the day. And I will screen share this so that those of you who are joining us can see. We're getting ready to have a presentation momentarily from our Dean of Students office. Then you have a lunch break. And then we have a few more sessions this afternoon, including a student panel so you can hear from some current HSU students. And then you'll get your virtual tour as well. So that link I put in the chat takes you here. I also want to stress this phone number down here. A lot of you used it this morning. If you have any issues while we are going through orientation, feel free to text us. And once you text us, we'll definitely.
See my
back?
back?
Give me 1 second. Once you, yep, you're back.
Let me do this.
So get the phone number there. So you see Michael has joined us back. Michael, it seems like a lot of our students were sad to see you go. So I'm sure that they would be happy to see you return. We told them it was probably some technical difficulties. So you can pick up where you left off at the end. And then there was a question that came in as well that we'll ask once you wrap up.
Yeah, yep. Thanks, man. I'm wondering, we've had blackouts and sort of, like tech issues in Sacramento. Yep. So let me do this. Right. So I'll conclude. I don't know if you all did you all get the Rocky clip? Where did I cut off at, Ebony?
Yep, we heard the Rocky piece, and then right at the end of the Rocky piece is when it cut out.
Yep, exactly. Okay, let me do this. So really the premise is listen, right? So, like similar to Rocky, similar to my journey, right? And being able to be the first person in my family to graduate college, right? To go on and get a master's degree, to work in the Capitol, to create a nonprofit that helps, 2,000 young men of color to get to and through college across 23 school sites. All of my struggles, right, that I had as a kid, all of my struggles I had in college now are directly to be able to help. If I would have quit along the way, like, I wouldn't be able to be at a place where I can be of service to so many others on a daily basis. So you'll have trials in your life, but you will have obstacles. But I encourage you all to lean back, like in those 3 core strategies. Have passion, believe in something beyond yourself. Have resiliency, right? Despite how many times you can knock down, get back up, right? And have empathy. Be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Now, I promise you, if you use those 3 strategies, you'll be able to get through obstacle that you're facing. Right now, you're in an obstacle. Right now, you're in a worldwide pandemic. You're starting, right, college virtually, which is tough. Have a vision for your life. Like, be able to see beyond this moment. I can put in the work necessary, and I promise you, you'll be able to get there. And I'm gonna end with this, right? Then I'm done, because I know I'm getting to my time. So, like I told you earlier, I served as the co-founder and CEO of Improve Your Tomorrow, and we help young men of color get to and through college. The story that you are able to build, right, and your accomplishments you're able to have, I encourage you, y'all, to if you come from a community like I came from in Stockton and Sacramento, make it an obligation to be able to go back, or make it an obligation to be able to come back and serve, right, in some way or another. So thank you for allowing me to share some words, with you. I'm happy to take questions, to be able to answer. I'm an open book. So let me know what y'all need to be able to see.
Sure, Michael. So the first question that came in earlier was, what was your self-care routine? And it came in early in your speech. So
Yep. That's a great question. So I do a handful of different things. One is I practice mindfulness. So still to this day, like last night, like at about 9 o'clock, before I went to bed, I wake up at 5 a.m. now. I got 2 kids who are 4 and 1. So in order for me to get work, I want to be able to, right? So one thing I do is practice mindfulness on a daily basis. I journal, and journaling and reflecting has allowed me to uncover truths about myself, right? That has helped to contribute to my personal, professional, relationships. And I also work out. I work out, 4 to 5 times per week. And a self-care routine is exactly it's a routine to be able to, right, to create a consistent space where you can have wellness for yourself.
Thank you. And there was a question as well on where students can find more information about your nonprofit.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat, but improveyourtomorrow.org. Where you can go, you kind of check us out, what we do. And as you all, right, get closer to graduation, and you're interested in helping to close the achievement gap, right, and close systemic barriers that prevent, folks of color from getting to college, hit me up.
Okay. Well, there were no more questions that came in. Michael, I cannot thank you enough for being here to share your story with our students today, especially as an alum. I think it's amazing that they can see and hear, what can be, and just have some motivation from someone that's already been a lumberjack and a part of the lumberjack family. So thank you so much for being with our students this morning.
No problem, y'all. Good luck in your journey.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, so with that being said, we are going to transition, and we are going to have a message from our Dean of Students office, which is the office that I have the pleasure of working with some amazing people. Our Associate Dean, Roger Wang, is going to lead this session. And so right now, I'm going to turn it over to him. Roger.
Good morning, students. Welcome to HSU. My name is Roger Wang. I'm the Associate Dean of Students. I am a Humboldt State alum, graduating with my degree in English. Normally, I'd ask people to raise their hands. I guess you can raise your hands via Zoom, but if there's any English majors, feel free to raise your hands. Shout out to all of them. I see at least a couple. I'm originally from Los Altos, which is in the South Bay, and I came up here, like many of you, probably just to get away from home. And I am excited. I know some of you are still at home, and hopefully, in spring or soon that you'll be able to be up here and experience HSU in person. But I know you're going to get a lot out of this semester, regardless of where you're at, through our classes. Really, when I think about my time at HSU, it is the things I learned in classes that really helped to shape who I am. We're going to talk about what the Dean of Students Office does here on campus, and we're going to have a couple of people introduce themselves and go over a couple of things. I'm not going to go over my whole entire presentation. That is in that Lumberjack link that we sent out earlier, so definitely review that. But we are going to talk about some things that are going to impact you for the students who are on campus. But really the purpose of this session is really answering questions. And so if you have any questions about anything that I'm talking about today or anything at all in general, please let us know. Let me share my screen. The Dean of Students Office, we often call it the compass of the community. We're kind of a catch-all. And so if you as a student have any questions or just not sure where to go, our office is probably a good place to start. We might not be the place that will be able to address it specifically, but we'll be able to connect you with the people who can. And so make sure that, that we are available, and we'll talk about how to contact us. A couple of things in our office, or a couple of areas that are in our office. And so under the Dean of Students immediate office is the Campus Assistance Response and Engagement Services. And we have, I'll have them introduce themselves, but we have two members of that team on this Zoom today. I oversee the Student Rights and Responsibilities Office. So that's really talking about students' rights and responsibilities. And if students violate policies, they usually will talk to me. Underneath the Dean of Students Office is also the Student Access Services. So that's the Student Disability Resource Center, the Testing Center, and Veteran Enrollment Physician Services. So if you have any questions about that, please put those in the Q&A button on the bottom. We also oversee orientation. So this orientation, getting you registered in June and throughout July, and also the orientation that you've been doing over the Lumberjack link. And this live orientation has all been organized by our office. The Office of Student Life, which includes clubs and activities, the Youth Educational Services, and the Social Justice, Equity, and Inclusion Center. And so we definitely, one of the best things about HSU is getting involved, and we're going to talk about throughout this next 2 days about how you can get involved virtually and on campus this semester. It's definitely important both for, getting the most out of your degree, but also just making connections here on campus. We have the Cultural Centers of Academic Excellence. That includes the African American Center, El Centro, which is based on Latinx identities, and then the Indian Tribal Educational Personnel Program, ITEP, focused on Native American identities, which are great spaces for students of color, but also all students who are just interested in learning more about others. And learning more about themselves. And then we also oversee the UC Center and Center Arch, which is a couple of areas that help put on different presentations and presenters and, sorry, not presenters, but artists. So we have comedians and artists and musicians come onto campus, and those are the areas that oversee that. In our office, we have in the media office, we have 4 people, and we'll have them introduce themselves. We'll go with Rob. He turned on his video first.
Hey y'all, I'm Rob Fever. I'm the Care Services Coordinator. As Roger mentioned before, CARE stands for Campus Assistance, Response, and Engagement. If we have a chance later, we can talk to you a little bit more about our services. You all were killing me earlier when Michael's video cut out. You went on this like Avatar Last Airbender rant. Someone said something like, when the world needed most, he vanished, and I was dying. You all are so
Hi, everyone. My name is Callie Rothrock. I also work in the Care Services program with Rob, and I am the case manager in the office.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marissa, but everybody calls me Madi, and I am the assistant to the Dean of Students. I, too, am an HSU alum, and I graduated in 2015 with a wildlife degree. And now I'm still here, like Roger, working for HSU.
And you all have met me, Dr. Ebony Turnbull, your Dean of Students. I am not an alum, but I'm happy to be here.
All right. And normally you would find us in Siemens Hall, which is right off the UC Quad, Siemens Hall 211. You can get a hold of us during the semester. If you called throughout the summer and we're having issues with orientation, you're probably talking to Madi. So we do have an active phone line, even though we are working virtually for fall 2020. Another way to get a hold of us is through email. So you can always email us at dos@humboldt.edu. That's a pretty good way to get a hold of us. And we can, again, regardless if we didn't answer your question today or if you're just running into issues or not sure where to go, feel free to always reach out to us and we can kind of either help you directly or direct you to the people who can. So something I'm going to go over quickly. Again, I know not all students are on campus this semester, but I do want to talk to the students who are on campus, or as we're moving forward, if you do end up on campus at some point, or if you're, I know there are some students who are living off campus but still in the local area. You should have seen this email throughout the summer, but I want to make sure that you see it again. So for students who are on campus, and again, here locally, there is a social responsibility commitment that we are asking all student, staff, and faculty to really follow through with. And part of that social responsibility commitment you're aware of is you need to self-quarantine for 14 days when you arrive to Humboldt County. And what self-quarantine means is you are in your room, in your housing room or your off-campus room. You can go out to get food and you can go out, you know, if you need to get your books or something like that, but really you should be staying in your room and self-quarantine. You know, you're not supposed to be and you shouldn't be talking to other students or hanging out in groups, going to parties or anything like that. So please make sure that you're following those 14-day quarantine. Again, if you have questions about what that exactly means, feel free to put that in Q&A or chat, and we'll get to that. You must wear a face covering on campus anytime you're indoors, outdoors, where you can't maintain a 6-foot distance from others. And you're going to have to know that if you come to class without wearing a mask, you're not going to be able to go into the class. And so make sure that you are carrying a couple masks with you, put some in your backpack, put some next to your doors and keys. So when you leave the room that you always have a face mask, put a couple in your pockets. We will, and I'll show you where you can get free masks. So if you're on campus, you're walking to camp or to your class and you realize, oh, I forgot my mask. There are a couple places on campus where you can get a free mask. But please remember, you have to wear a mask when you're on campus. And if you're in class, you will not be able to attend class without a face mask. You're going to have to perform a daily wellness self-check before coming onto campus or leaving your residence hall. And so it's just making sure that you're not coughing and sneezing and those types of things, that you're not running a fever. And that if you are feeling sick, no matter what it is, even if you don't think it's COVID-19, if you're feeling sick in any way, is you're going to stay off campus or stay in your residence hall room if you're sick. If you travel outside of Humboldt County for any reason, you're going to have to quarantine when you come back. And you won't be allowed to come to your in-person classes during that quarantine period. So if you go home for Labor Day, which is in about 2 weeks from now, you're going to have to quarantine again for 14 days. If you go home for fall break and you want to come back between fall break and Christmas, you're going to be staying in your room primarily during that time. Making sure that you wash your hands. And I know hopefully you've all kind of learned how to properly wash your hands over the last 5 months. Hopefully you knew that beforehand, but pretend you should be washing your hands like you have just cut some jalapenos or some chilies. And so make sure that you're really scrubbing and you're not, that you're really getting in there deep and then using the right amount of soap and water and that you're doing it for enough time. So sing a couple songs, happy birthday twice, the ABCs, whatever it is, make it fun, but definitely wash your hands. Practice social distancing, and making sure that you're avoiding people with you. So that means 6 feet between people. And if there are further directions from the Humboldt County Public Health, which we will communicate to you, that you have to follow those directives. And then just in general, that you're kind of taking care of yourself with your personal health and following medical instructions and just kind of maintaining cleanliness. Again, you've had 5 months of practice about what wearing a face mask is. Wonder you're doing it correctly though. So if you put a face mask on your chin, you're not doing anything besides wearing a face mask over your chin. You're not protecting anybody. And so make sure you are wearing a face mask. You should not be taking your face mask if you're sneezing or coughing or anything like that. That's the purpose of the face mask. So make sure, you know, even if you're talking to somebody, your face mask should be on. People can hear you fine with your face mask on, trust me. Don't wear your face mask loosely with gaps on the side. Again, that's not really protecting anybody nor yourself. And so make sure that the gaps are pretty tight and that face mask is pretty tight on you. Make sure you're wearing your face mask so it covers the tip of your nose. Again, you want to make sure the same one is wear your mask. Don't wear your mask below your nose. Having your nose out really is not helping anybody because if you sneeze, that's just spreading everything over. So make sure that your face mask is not just covering your mouth, but also your nose. Don't leave your chin exposed. That doesn't look comfortable anyways, but make sure that you're wearing your face mask like the person on the right. So it comes all the way up, closes the bridge of your nose and all the way down under your chin. Do your best to tie the loops or the ties so it's snug around your face without gaps. To practice social distancing, sometimes it can be hard to figure out, you know, what 6 feet is. So I know a lot of people love dogs. So imagine 2 golden retrievers, nose to tails, that's 6 feet. If they're standing side by side. I know it can be hard to kind of have dogs line up, but that's what it would look like. If you can imagine an average sedan width, that's 6 feet. An average sofa, that's 6 feet. Or my favorite, a man in a top hat that's laying down, that's 6 feet. So just imagine those things if you're trying to figure out what does 6 feet mean. That does not mean you should be hugging people or anything like that. That is not 6 feet. Again, if you need face mask, be responsible, pack a couple in your backpack, a wallet, key, or keep it near your wallet, keys, doors, whatever it is. If you do forget and you're on campus, University Police Department will have them. They're on the first floor of the Student Business Services. If you are on campus, the one that's probably closest to you is either the Jolly Giant Commons, that's where you checked in. On the 3rd floor, and that is, or the College Creek Marketplace, which is by College Creek on the south side of campus. And then there's a parking kiosk, little hut on parking lot G11, which is on the south side of campus, pretty much close to SBS and College Creek Marketplace. So those are where you can get free masks. And so again, if you forget one, please go get one. Again, you will not be allowed into any of the buildings. You won't be able to get food or anything like that. You won't be able to go to class without a face mask on. And if you're thinking about, what about my rights and those types of things, I know wearing a face mask has become politicized for whatever reason. What I'm going to say is if you refuse to wear a mask in the classroom or in a building, you will be removed from that classroom for disruptive behavior. If you violate this mandate, you can be restricted from campus, you can be removed from housing, you can be suspended or expelled from the CSU system. This is a health and safety issue. We are living in a pandemic, and so wearing your face mask is not an option. If you have a disability and need an accommodation, please come talk to the Student Disability Resource Center, but generally, you need to be, or not generally, you will need to wear a mask wherever you are. And so if you're in the classroom, please be mindful that you will not be able to attend the class, and the class will not start if you're not wearing a mask. So besides that, I wanted to leave it up for questions. I think I saw some stuff in the chat, and I see some people using the Q&A function. Ebony or somebody, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll read what's in the Q&A. The Q&A asks, just to be sure, are on-campus resources going to be available to all students with proper social distancing being in place? As an example, can we go to the library?
So there are going to be some resources that are open. If you haven't seen it yet, there is a Campus Ready website, and hopefully one of my panelists can put that in the chat. But On the main HSU website, on the right-hand side, there's a Campus Ready link, and it talks about the resources that are open. They're looking into, right now, the library is not planning to open. Same thing with the gym. It may open if people are following the self-quarantine and that there are no more cases. We might be able to open some of those spaces. We are going to try having some spaces open, but we're kind of playing and seeing how things are going to go. So I see some people in the chat that the library, again, is planning to be open a little bit, but they're really figuring out what the set schedule is for the semester. And so I would keep an eye out on that Campus Ready website, but also your email to figure out what that is. I know the bookstore is going to be open. I think it's open today or sometime this week. And so that's where you would go.
Bookstore
I see somebody
open by tomorrow. Roger, there's a question on what are the rules after 14 days for exploring social responsibility, hanging out, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so you'll still need to wear a face mask after the 14 days. You're still going to have to social distance, but you'll have a little bit more freedom to kind of explore the community. Again, you still have to do those things. What I will say, and I kind of go over this in the other presentation that is on Lumberjack link, is you're an HSU student no matter where you go. And so if there are parties off campus, and we hope that's not happening, but if there are parties off campus, that can affect your status as a student here. And if we find out that students are at a party off campus and they're not social distancing, which you can't have public events or those types of things, that could affect your status as a student. You could be suspended or be restricted from campus or something like that. And we do work closely with our Eureka Police and our Arcata Police Department and our Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. So please be mindful that when you're out, you still have to be socially responsible. And really the crux of all of this working out is everybody, students, staff, and faculty, being mindful and being socially responsible to take their best efforts to really stay safe. So, not having huge parties and those types of things are still not going to be allowed. You still need to social distance.
Thank you, Roger. There is a question on, can we still get food while we are quarantined? How do they get food if they have to, while they quarantine for the 14 days?
Yeah, so the J, if you're on campus, and I know there are going to be some people on this Zoom call who are at home, for the people at home, do whatever you're doing. But if you are in the local area, and it looks like there are people who are living on campus, the J, which is on the 4th floor of the JGC building, then where you checked in, has a cafeteria. You can pick up food there and to go. You can't eat in the J, but you can pick it up to go. And that's probably your best bet in terms of saving money, but also getting some good food. If you need to go to grocery stores and that kind of stuff, definitely, wear a mask. You won't be allowed in the grocery store if you're not wearing a mask, and just kind of be mindful to keep essentially anything that's not essential, you shouldn't be doing, but getting food is part of that.
Thank you, Roger. And there's a question on getting information if someone tests positive for COVID. What information are we allowed to share regarding that, that student information from the email that went out, or future students?
Yeah, so what happened to that student, we can't talk specifics of that student and what's going on. I know that there are asymptomatic and they're in isolation now. What's going to happen when anybody tests positive, that's what's going to happen, is we have, I think, about 160 or 180 on-campus housing isolation rooms where we're going to put students who test positive and they're going to be checked up by our healthcare professionals to make sure that they're doing right, and they're going to have food delivered to them. And there's going to be some contact tracing too, to make sure that anybody who might have interacted with that person can get further testing or isolating themselves. And again, there are people, hopefully you've all been reading the news, but there are people who are going to be asymptomatic, which means they're not going to show any symptoms. and still be a carrier. And that's why we've tested all of the students who are coming in, but also why it's so important, even though if you think you're fine, or if you think other people you're hanging out are fine, they look like they're not sick or something like that, to still socially distance and wear a face mask and to self-quarantine, because it can spread very quickly, even though you don't know it. You know, you're not going to necessarily see somebody who looks like they're having a fever or that they're sneezing all over. Again, it could be just somebody who looks perfectly fine, and that's something I would consider, is just thinking that if you think that you should always be thinking that you have it, because again, you could be asymptomatic.
Thanks. Right now, I'd like to ask Rob and/or Callie to give an overview of some of the care services that are virtual this fall.
Absolutely. So again, my name is Rob. I'm the Care Services Coordinator. And Care Services is a kind of service that's become very common on college campuses now, just to make sure that students are focused on their well-being and making sure they're getting as much resources and support as possible. So essentially, our services can be broken down into kind of two different areas. The first is kind of like we serve as advocates for you. If anything, we know that even in times like this where we're kind of doing virtual and online services and you're taking classes online, things can still come up. Certain emergencies might come up where you might get taken away from the class, or maybe you get sick, whether it's COVID or not, and or maybe something happens. If anything like that happens, we want to make sure it's not going to impact your education, or you're not just going to fail all your courses. So you can work with us, and we can work with your professors to make sure they're building accommodations for you, and you're getting as much support as possible for you to be successful at HSU. And the second part of our service is really making sure that you're getting access to services that you might need to get through your time at HSU. Typically, we focus on basic needs support, including medical care, mental health care, and making appropriate referrals for those. And then other basic needs support might be things like food access, like we've been talking about, or if you have any housing issues, you might be able to help with that. But pretty much our office, as Roger's been going through this presentation, can be a place where you can reach out if you have any kind of concerns here at HSU, and we can direct you to this.
And while we're all virtual, we're doing appointments over Zoom and phone, or communicating over email, so feel free to reach out to us anytime.
And I saw some questions in the chat about the guy with the top hat, and just to answer it again, the top hat is about 1 foot long. And then I also heard some question about the golden retrievers, and they asked how old they were. And I believe those golden retrievers were about 5 and 8 years old, respectively.
Thank you. There's some questions about if the library is closed, how do we get our ID? And you get your ID, you just go to the library website and they will mail it to you. So you can go to the library website, put in your request from the library's website, and you can still get your HSU ID. So no worries there. One of you want to answer, how do you get your books for classes if your classes are online?
Yeah, so I would check your Canvas course over the next couple of days, or look at you should always be checking your HSU email. Your faculty will be communicating with you soon about what books you need. For a lot of first-year students, a lot of your books are going to be online or free. A lot of our faculty are trying to avoid, having our students pay for expensive textbooks. So just look at those resources to see where you can get your book. You can also go to the bookstore and look up your classes, and if it's listed there, some of them aren't listed, but a lot of them are, and it will tell you what books you need for your classes. I see a question about what are some things that SDRC can help with for students with learning disabilities. So we have a lot of different things. So there can be distraction-free testing accommodations. There can be extended time on testing. There can be, different technology things that we can provide students. So different LiveScribe pens and those types of things. It can be a lot of different accommodations. If you haven't, I know this isn't based on learning disability, but if you have an ESA or want an ESA, you need to start with SDRC first. And ESA is an emotional support animal. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the basic. If you're not sure, you know, it can be pretty expensive to be tested for learning disabilities. And, you know, some of you might not have had access to that in K-12, but if you suspect that you might have a learning disability but never got diagnosed or you know, determined for that, we can test for those things and give you diagnosis, which can actually help you now, but also in the long term if you want to go into grad school or anything like that, or even a job. And so, you know, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to SDRC. The best way to get a hold of them is just emailing them, sdrc@humboldt.edu, or calling them, and I'll put the number in the chat. You know, with SDRC, you typically need documentation from a medical professional, so it's not just about feeling special. It's not that question, but yes, it needs to be documented.
Ah, thank you. Yes, there is an on-campus health clinic, and in fact, there is a presentation this afternoon from Raven Craig, who can talk to us much more in depth about all of our health services on campus. So with that, I do not see any other questions related to social responsibility. I just want to stress, please, please, please be responsible. Please know that the community members, they call us all the time. You know, students at the beach, students in the forest, students at the park, students weren't wearing masks, students were not socially distant from one another, that sort of thing. And it always gets tracked back to who it was. So just understand that, you know, we receive those calls, and it's all of our responsibilities to make sure we're doing the right thing and what we're supposed to do to keep everybody safe. So it's not ideal. I'm an extrovert. I don't like it. I like meeting students and making friends and being with my colleagues, but right now we just are not able to do that. So with that, we are getting ready for our break. We will return here back to this same Zoom link at 12:05. We will start promptly on time, so please make sure that you are back. You can stay logged in if you would like to leave it open, since it's only a 25-minute break. And we will be back to start at 12:05 with the Campus Advocate team. So thank you, everybody. See you soon. Welcome back, students. Like always, we have a few minutes before we get started. Letting you know that we are here, and a little bit after 12:05, once we let students log in, we will introduce our next speakers and then get started. Okay, it is 12:05, so we are going to get started. I see students still chiming in, so I'll do some quick housekeeping before we introduce our next panelist. As a reminder that we are in this room all afternoon. At 2 o'clock, we are going to transition to your orientation leaders for your campus tour. Also, love that you all are engaging in the chat room. Continue to connect with one another, meet new friends, and to post your questions in the Q&A if you have questions. Just be mindful, everyone can see your chat, so just make sure everything is appropriate and friendly. That we're engaging with there. And remember, some of your questions, if we don't answer it, it may be because there's certain sessions that will answer your questions. Like a lot of you have been asking about student life, and that will be answered in about an hour or so. So we will get to your questions, just put them in the Q&A at the bottom, and continue to engage with one another in the chat. As we all know, being quarantined and virtual isn't necessarily fun right now. So with that being said, our panelists to talk about the Campus Advocate Team in Title IX are here. And so I am going to turn it over to these phenomenal colleagues, and I'll start with David Hickox, let him introduce himself and his team, and then they will take it from there. David?
Thank you, Ebony, and good afternoon, students. I appreciate being able to address y'all today. My name is David Hickox. I'm a Title IX coordinator and discrimination, harassment, and retaliation prevention administrator. I'm joined by the second member of our Title IX team, which is Alan Ford. He's a Title IX and DHR investigator. And what Title IX means to you is we are the office that oversees and enforces the California State University system-wide policy that prohibits sexual misconduct, dating, domestic violence, stalking, and any acts of discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. And if any of our community members or campus members experience that type of conduct, our office oversees the stop, remedy, prevent aspects of addressing that type of behavior. We provide supportive measures for students that come forth that make reports of this behavior. We have a grievance policy or procedure that if the reporting party is wanting to hold the person responsible for the behavior accountable, we have an investigation and a student conduct process. And we have we do everything that we can to stop the behavior, to prevent its recurrence, and to make the person reporting that behavior whole. And that's the balance of our Title IX team right now. We've got some wonderful partners. Another thing that's important for you all to know is if you experience behavior that falls under sexual misconduct, and sexual misconduct, by the way, is any sexual activity that does not have affirmative consent from both of the parties participating in it. And the other things that fall under it, obviously dating, domestic violence, stalking, or acts that we address. But if you bring, if you want to report this behavior, you can report it to any university employee, and a report will be made to my office. And it's important that you know that, because if you share information about sexual misconduct with a university employee who is not a physician and who is not a counselor, that report will come to my office, and I will reach out and follow up with you. So if you experience this type of behavior, but you want to remain confidential and not have that information get reported to the campus, we have avenues for that. You can go to our counseling center and talk to a counselor, or you can work with some of our terrific campus advocates who are represented here on the call today. And with that, I will turn it over to Paula. If you want to you may turn it over to you, Paula, or you may turn it over to Samantha.
That's fine.
Okay,
Oh, hi.
Samantha.
Oh, I think we'll come to me first. So hi, I'm Paula. I am with the Campus Advocate team, and I'm just here to support the process today. My teammate Samantha and Cassandra will introduce themselves, and Samantha will be leading us through the information. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cassandra. I'm one of the educators/advocates for the North Coast Rape Crisis team and the Campus Advocate team. So it's nice to see everybody.
And I'm Samantha. I am a bilingual educator for the Campus Advocate team and one of the bilingual advocates as well. So I'm just going to share my screen really quick. So the Campus Advocate team is made up of members from the North Coast Rape Crisis team. And so we are our own nonprofit organization as the North Coast Rape Crisis team. And it's important to note that because while we work with the university, we don't work for them, meaning that we have no reporting obligations to the Title IX office, to law enforcement, or the administration. And what's really cool about this is that it lets us prioritize the needs of the survivor always, and it allows us to be confidential. And so I just want to talk about Title IX really quick because often I forget that people don't know what Title IX is. And it's really important for y'all as students to know what it is. So I'm going to talk very briefly about it. So it's a federal law that prohibits sex discrimination in education. It means that you are all ensured the right to an environment and pursue an education free from any sexual violence, dating violence, domestic violence, intimate partner violence, stalking, etc. It gives you rights and options if you were ever to experience violence during your time as a student. And it also protects you from getting in trouble if you were under the influence of drugs or alcohol when violence does occur. The same goes for people or anyone in the realm of sex work. And this is all so long as there isn't any immediate threat to the larger campus as well. And so every CSU requires campuses to have an advocate. And what HSU did is something really cool is that they hired us, your campus advocate team, a whole group of people to serve you all. And so these are some of our services. So all of our services are at no cost to you and are completely confidential. We have a 24/7 hotline at your disposal. 365 days a year, we're always available. So we offer counseling to individuals at our on-campus office. And currently, because of COVID, we are offering the option to have counseling via phone. And so we can accompany you to the Title IX office to meet with David or Title IX staff as well, to law enforcement like UPD, to the health center, or any other appointment in relation to said violence. So we can also assist you in receiving interim measures. So what these are is that they can be anything like changing dorms, changing classes, making up an exam. Maybe you're having like a really rough week because of what occurred. You can make up that exam. You can get priority access to counseling at CAPS as well. And there's a lot of other interim measures and accommodations that we can assist you with. We can help you get connected to resources that are on or off campus as well. Something really great about that is that there are so many resources out there, and while you don't have to remember all of them, we can help get you connected with a lot of them as well. We are also not pro-reporting or anti-reporting. We're pro-survivor and whatever they want to do. We serve everyone regardless of gender identity, regardless of sexual orientation, whatever identities one has, we're a safe space for all. We're pretty much just here to give you your options, and we're here to support you, and we'll do whatever you want to do. So our hotline number is 707-445-2881. That's a number that you're more than welcome to kind of know or just remember our name. And let me unshare. And so if anyone has any questions, you're more than welcome to ask here in the chat, and we're more than happy to answer them as well.
Yeah, and Samantha, I appreciate you bringing up the bit about if drugs or alcohol are involved in circumstances that lead to reporting. That's a very important caveat in our policy, that if we're looking at sexual misconduct, we really don't care about recreational drug use. We really don't care about alcohol, even if it's in the dorms, even if it's a violation of policy. That gets set aside. The only thing we can't set aside is if there is something that would be a threat to our campus community, if there was a weapon involved, if there were minors involved, someone that we have on our radar as a serial offender, we might have to look at some of that. And the other thing that I want y'all to know as students is you don't have to make an official complaint in order to receive support measures, okay? Samantha touched on it. If you experience some behavior that's sexual misconduct, you're probably gonna be having a pretty hard time, and it's probably gonna affect your academic performance. My office can work with the campus advocates. I don't need to know the specific details of what you're reporting so long as you're working with them. They're gonna confirm that, and I can reach out in a confidential way that protects your identity, or it doesn't protect your identity. I'm gonna have to reach out to your instructors, but it protects the circumstances. I'm not sharing personal information. We've got a very inappropriate comment. And I can request those accommodations on your behalf and see you through that. Again, we're wanting to stop the behavior, prevent its recurrence, and remedy the circumstances that caused it. So we are open to your questions.
David, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in here very quickly. So for the 4 students that think it's funny to be inappropriate during a mandatory orientation, please know that your names have now been recorded, and we will be reaching out via Code of Conduct through the Dean of Students office, because apparently we had a whole conversation this morning about being responsible, and that went over some of your heads. So now, unfortunately, we have to turn off the chat feature for every single student to be able to engage with one another, because you have some of your peers that don't know how to behave themselves. So you will no longer be able to use the function. My apologies to the panelists. I'm sorry that that occurred. David, there was a responsible question that was submitted and wanted to have some explanation based upon what abuse shouldn't abuse be reported to the cops instead of to the school?
I think that's up to the person experiencing it, or if you're a third party and you're witnessing it. I would say if you're the person experiencing the behavior, it's whatever you want. Know that the campus advocates can help facilitate reporting to the police department, to law enforcement. Know that my office, Alan and I, can help facilitate you reporting to UPD. We'll walk down with you, or we'll request that an officer come forward to our office if you're feeling safe in our spaces. We'll do whatever we can to facilitate law enforcement reporting. And that's a good question, because it speaks to the different jurisdictions and different levels of authority that our offices have. The most severe punishment that my office can recommend to the Dean of Student conduct process is for someone to lose access to our academic programs. And so and the only cases that we investigate are cases in which we control the person accused of the behavior. So someone who would be a student or a staff person or a faculty person working on our campus. And the worst thing that we can do to them if they're found responsible is recommend that they be suspended or expelled. You know, when we find someone responsible, they're not going to walk away in handcuffs and go to jail. And so as someone who's experiencing this behavior as a victim, in the law enforcement terminology, you're a complainant in the Title IX. If you're wanting justice, you can have both. If you're wanting to address this, hey, I want to address it through the Title IX because I don't think this person should be on HSU's campus doing things like this. We manage that process. And if you want to take that to law enforcement to find that person criminally responsible, if that's the case, then you can do those as well. As a third party, I don't think law enforcement's not going to take a complaint from a third party. They might investigate based on information provided by a third party, and they would reach out to the person who's experiencing that behavior. A third party can report conduct to Title IX, DHR, and we would reach out to that person and make an inquiry. And it would be, if it's, we would do that in a means that's safe and appropriate for the person that's been reported.
Yeah, and with our organization as the Campus Advocate Team, we understand that not everybody trusts law enforcement or wants to report, and that there is no correct way to go about an experience. There's no, okay, you have to go and report, you have to go and do this. We'll give you whatever options are available. And if you want to do that, you can. And if you don't want to do that, that's okay.
Yeah. And this,
And just to add to what Samantha shared, if somebody would like to connect with law enforcement, and this would apply whether it's university police or any police in the different jurisdictions in the greater area, the Campus Advocate team is available, North Coast Rape Crisis team is available to accompany a survivor to any kind of interview. And in fact, every person in the state of California, if they are being interviewed by law enforcement when they are the possible victim of such an assault, they have a legal right to have an advocate present with them. Law enforcement sometimes doesn't mention that, or mentions it in a way that might sound discouraging of having an advocate. So we just really want you all to know that you would have that right to have one of us present. It can be helpful because we work a lot with cases in the criminal legal system, and we might be able to assist you in giving you enough information so that you can make really informed choices about what you decide to do.
that's right.
Thank
And another discrepancy
ahead.
that law enforcement in Title IX can do is with respect to keeping parties apart. If you're wanting a pure restraining order that's legally binding and enforceable by law enforcement, you would have to get that from the police. The dean of students can issue what we call mutual no contact orders, and that's us saying, hey, you two students, you need to take active measures to stay away from each other. And it's not a punishment; it is a preventive measure, an interim measure to keep parties apart as we go through this process.
Thank you, David. There is another question here that came in that is asking, are there ways for students to get involved with supporting your department/Title IX, generally outside of having to make a report or having something to report, excuse me?
I think so. When we're not actively responding to cases, we throw our weight behind preventive measures, behind education and outreach. And so if you're a student and you have a student group and you think it would be appropriate to have Title IX come address your group or to come to one of your functions, invite us and we'll show up. I would encourage you, if you're wanting to make an impact with respect to preventing sexualized violence, you can participate in our Sexual Assault Prevention Committee, which is a faculty, staff, and student initiative. You can get in touch with Paula or Samantha or Cassandra, and if you wanted, they could talk about how you could volunteer to be an advocate and train for that if you have the time. We would be happy to have student participation from our Title IX office perspective. It's going to be about outreach and getting our message and building an office that students are confident in and feel safe bringing their complaints to. That's what we want to do. And if we can get students, our students never cease to amaze me in how creative they are. If you can come up with an idea for how we can help affect that, reach out to Alan, reach out to me. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, another resource on campus is Check It. It's student run, student led. It's a really good way to get involved. The North Coast Rape Crisis team works very closely with them as well.
Thank you. Another question here that came in is, what do the new Title IX regulations impact?
A very good question. From a customer standpoint, as a student, faculty member, or staff, there is no change. If there's behavior that violates CSU policy, it will get addressed. And if it reaches the threshold of sexual misconduct, it'll get investigated. The changes to Title IX limit what behavior falls under Title IX. One of the biggest changes is behavior that occurs on property that the university doesn't control no longer falls under Title IX. Well, a casual observer might think, well, wait a minute. So if there's a rape in the dorms, that's going to fall under Title IX and get investigated. But if there's a rape in an apartment in Arcata, it's not going to get investigated. That's not true. Both of those would get investigated. We would just follow different procedures. The new regs say that the act that happened on our campus falls under Title IX. We would use the procedures that govern Title IX. The one that happened off campus doesn't fall under Title IX. We would just use our old procedures for back when it did. Okay, so that same behavior, that's offending behavior, offending conduct, is still going to get aggressively investigated and managed. The big headache and changes to Title IX are falling on Alan and falling on me and falling on Ebony and Roger and the other folks in the Dean of Students office, because we have to untangle what policy we're going to use to address the behavior, but have faith that that behavior will be addressed if it violates our policy. And there has been no change in what the CSU considers to be offending policy with respect to the changes in the regulations to Title.
And with our services, whether or not it falls under Title IX, those services are available for you. Even if something occurred when you were back home or off campus or as a child as well, those services, all of our services are there for you.
Thank you. Is there a time limit on reporting things?
There is not. I would say timely reports tend to engender more thorough investigations if there's going to be one, because the evidence, as time goes by, somebody might graduate, somebody might drop out, text messages might get wiped off of a phone. We prefer timely reports, but it's not required. And it's also not required that if you've experienced this behavior, you can come to Title IX even if the person that is accused of behavior is not under our control, because we can still give you those supportive measures. And we can still give you supportive measures even if you're suffering from post-traumatic stress or the implications of something that happened to you many years ago. If it's tied to sexual misconduct, we have the supportive measures and the resources to point our reporters towards to try to make them whole again. So no, there's no statute of limitations on reporting.
Yeah, and in terms of criminal reporting, say not to Title IX, but to law enforcement like APD, I believe UPD as well, EPD or the sheriff's office, there are different statutes of limitations to different crimes. So if anyone has any specific crime that they're thinking of and they're not sure if it's reportable or not, we can definitely provide you with a lot more information.
And I'd just like to add a little clarification about restraining orders that was mentioned earlier, and that is that restraining orders are actually issued through the county court. It's a civil process. There are things that are called emergency protective orders or criminal protective orders that would be gotten through law enforcement or a judge. But if anybody is needing a restraining order as opposed to an on-campus stay away directive, then if you give the Campus Advocate team a call, we'll be happy to kind of walk you through what those different processes are, what your options are.
Thank you for the additional information. There was a question on if the Campus Advocate could place their email in the chat as well as the phone number hotline. So you can do that to all attendees. And then also there's a question on what if you don't know who the person was? That person put the question in when David was speaking on reporting.
I think we still report it. And again, the primary goal of our office is to support people who report, to put supportive measures in front of them. If we can investigate, if the complainant wants an investigation, and if we're able to investigate, if the behavior reaches the threshold of being a violation and the university has jurisdiction over the behavior, we will investigate. If we don't know the identity, that's fine. We can still be part of that process. We can still provide those supportive measures. Reach out to the instructors and get them in line with some counseling support if that's what they need, if they're wanting to make it to law enforcement, because that might be one where if a forensic investigation is required to determine someone's identity, that's going to be something that falls under law enforcement. And if the reporter of the behavior wants to do that, we can facilitate that reporting.
Yeah, and you don't need to know anyone's name if you don't remember to get our services. You don't need any proof or evidence to talk to us. We'll believe you if you said something happened. Our phone number and our website is down in the chat. So it's once again 707-445-2881. Our website is ncrct.org, and keep an eye out for our new website, which will be launching soon. And I've been working very hard on it.
And students, be aware, I mean, this is some good information, but most of you aren't going to ever need it, and thankfully, but some of you are, and it might not be, it'll be some time from now. campus advocate team's literature is all over campus. We've got it in the Title IX office, we've got it in the Dean of Students office, it's all over the residence halls, or you can just search it. Just know that if you need to be put in touch with some of these resources, the easiest way you can do is just contact someone who is an employee of the university, someone who's not a counselor or who's not a physician. They can, at a minimum, bring your name to my office, and I can, my reach out, when I reach out to people who've been reported to have experienced this behavior, it contains my information, but it also contains the campus advocate's contact information. It contains the counseling center's information, and it lays out all of the opportunities in front of you and tells you that you're not obligated to do anything, but here are the things that we can do for you.
Thank you. There was another question that came in. It says, are there any situations in which you would have to override a survivor's wish to not report?
Yes, I think, and by report, I think you mean investigate. Yes. If I got a report in the residence hall, let's say, for example, and it was another resident and they used a weapon, I'm sorry, that reporter, even if they don't want that to be investigated, it will be investigated. I cannot compel that person to share information that they don't want to share. You know, if they don't want to tell me facts, that's fine. But that investigation is going to go forward if we get a report of weapon. If we get a report of drugs to the extent that it looks to be trafficking, if we get any report of what is suggested to be human trafficking, we would have to investigate. That would be, I think, extremely rare. Rapwood, it has not happened since I've been working Title IX, and I don't anticipate that being an issue.
Thank you. I'll move to the next question. Where would someone go if they wanted to receive help with dealing with the past trauma from sexual harassment or anything like that?
If they were wanting to have a confidential discussion about that, I would recommend they go to the campus advocate team or to our counseling center. If they could come to the Title IX office and not share particulars, but share that they had experienced something that's causing them to have issues that they would like to receive treatment for. And again, within the limits of what I'm told, I would do my best to get the student in front of the resource that could best serve them. I mean, if we're looking at something that appears to be applicable to long-term counseling, I would refer that student to the counseling center, but also work with the counseling center to make sure that they have the bandwidth to support it. And if not, if more than what CAPS could provide is needed, to perhaps work with the student to find that off-campus resource that could address their needs.
Yeah, so if you don't know ever where to start, where to go, give us a call on our hotline and we'll point you to the right direction and we'll get you connected to the proper resources.
And as Sam mentioned earlier, we do provide individual counseling on campus. We also have individual counseling and support groups in our Eureka office, if that's more comfortable for people. And then we also maintain constantly updated referral lists of local therapists and other mental health providers in the community.
And yeah, I'll piggyback on what Paula just said. They also have that wonderful number that's a hotline that's 24 hours. And it could be, you know, someone could have experienced something. It's 2:30 in the morning, they're lying in bed, and they're having a panic attack. You know what? Call that number. A person who cares is going to answer, and they can just be someone that you can talk to, even if you don't want to report it. But you just need to get through that moment of panic. Reach out. It's a wonderful resource.
And additionally, our number isn't just for survivors, it's for allies, family, friends of survivors. So if your friend discloses something and it's weighing really heavily on you, you can give us a call as well and we'll be there to talk.
Thank you. There's a question that asks, what will happen to false allegations?
Well, if we get a report that's knowingly false, in the sense that someone intentionally made a false report with the intent of getting someone else in trouble, if we found evidence to support that, I would refer it to student conduct, and there'd be a student conduct investigation. If someone was just wrong, if someone came in and said, I got fondled, I got groped, and it was this person, and they had good reason to believe it was that person, but it turned out to not be that person, then there would be no discipline stemming from that. as long as there was no intent to deceive. I think we would look at things on a case-by-case basis, but someone being wrong or someone misremembering or someone reporting bad information, as long as there's not ill intent behind it, there would be no repercussions.
Thank you very much. There is a question about Check It. Just asking how to get involved. I know also Raven is presenting, or maybe Mira immediately after. And so we can allow one of them to answer unless you all want to share any information that you have regarding Check It.
I can share that one of the things HSU does well from its main web page, there's the ABC index. And if you wanted to find Check It, you go to the ABC index, click on C, scroll down to Check It, click. You've got the contact information for Mary Sue Savage, their wonderful coordinator, and information about their programs. And I don't know if our campus advocates have more to share. It's just a very robust, student-led bystander intervention program that's just absolutely terrific.
Yeah, they do a lot of outreach. So if you haven't heard of them, you will hear of them. You'll see their stickers, you'll see whatever other merch swag that they have as well, which are really cool. I believe they do have a website, so check it out using the toolbar that David was talking about. And Raven for sure will have a lot more questions if you're wanting to volunteer with them, which is something that is totally available for you.
Thank you both for answering that. Okay, looking at, we have a couple more minutes. I'm scrolling through to see if you have any final questions for Samantha or David. Please put it in the chat now. We have a couple more minutes. While they are doing that, I will allow Samantha and David to make some final remarks.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate.
Go ahead, David.
Oh, go ahead, Samantha.
Yeah. Whether or not you take this seriously, stuff happens and it sucks. But just know that we're here. Have our number down, have it saved, whether you need it or a friend will need it. I hope you don't ever have to call us, but if you do, we're always here. Just know that you aren't alone and you deserve to have your boundaries respected.
Yeah, and I would say just know that these resources exist because of you. They're funded by you and the tuition that you bring to this campus. You should never feel like you're burdening the campus advocates or the Title IX office by bringing us work. We want you to do that because we're here to support you, usually because something pretty terrible has happened. So please, if you find yourself in that circumstance, reach out and we're gonna do everything we can for you.
Thank you very much. Any final remarks? I didn't see. Okay, well, thank you both, both the Campus Advocate team and our Title IX team for being with us today to answer some very, very important questions. There was a quick comment that came in just confirming this is for sexual experiences rather than physical abuse. David, do you want to address that real quick?
Well, physical abuse could fall under, intimate partner violence, dating domestic violence. I would say if it, when in doubt, report it. And if it reaches my office and it doesn't fall under Title IX, but it needs to be addressed, I'll make sure it gets to where it needs to go. And it's going to go back to that gentleman right there, Roger Wang, most likely, if it's not going to be behavior that I'm responsible for. If it violates CSU policy, and getting beaten on would certainly violate CSU policy, we're going to look into that. We're going to stop that behavior. We're going to investigate it. And if it's someone we have control of and they're responsible, we're going to sanction them.
Thank you, David. And Samantha, is there a way for students to be a part of Campus Advocate team, not as in regards to supporting, but just being involved in any kind of way, volunteering maybe?
Yeah, so we're always happy to take in volunteers. In the chat, Paula has put in her email, so if you have any questions or interest in that, you're more than welcome to email her as well. I don't know if you're available to see it, but it's paj@ncrct.org.
Yep, it is there in the chat. Well, thank you both again. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate your time and your services. So thank you both. Well, both as in both teams. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I hope that information was very insightful for you. I know it is not necessarily easiest to understand, but sometimes If we have questions after the fact, reach out to the Dean of Students Office or orientation program, and we can always forward the information and the questions to them, or send you the information so it's not like a one and done. So we wanted to make sure we share that information as well. Okay, while we are transitioning facilitators, we are going to now move into our sex, drugs, and rock and roll session. It's always a popular and very informative session. And so I am going to ask Mira, will you be facilitating for us today? Awesome. Okay. Well, at this time, we are going to transition over. Again, use the Q&A box at the bottom. Once Mira gets through her overview, we'll facilitate any questions. Mira, there has been a lot of questions about Check It, just FYI. So lots of students asking how to get involved. What is it? Where do I go? In the last session. So with that, I would turn it over to Mira Freeman. And Mira, you're muted, by the way.
Mira unmuted you. Hope that that's okay.
Am I still muted?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, so welcome, HSU students, welcome, and thank you for choosing Humboldt State University. I too chose Humboldt State University starting in 1996. My name is Mira Friedman, and I work for Student Health and Wellbeing Services, and I'm so happy to be with you here today, even though it's virtual. We're kind of all needing to get creative and flexible. So I've worked for the university for 16 years, and before that, I worked for Planned Parenthood for 6 years. I do have 2 different degrees from Humboldt State University. One is my undergraduate social work degree, as well as my graduate degree in social work. So again, welcome, whether you're here locally or you're at home in LA or San Francisco, wherever you are. Thank you for choosing Humboldt State University. I think that you'll find it's an incredible organization, institution, and the community is also really, really wonderful. So let's just jump in. So before we get too far, I want to acknowledge that this presentation was actually developed by one of our health educators, Raven Craig. And so hopefully you've gone through this presentation already and you heard her sweet voice, but I just want to make sure that you know that this is developed by her. So of course you'll have an opportunity to ask questions in the chat, but if there's questions that come up later, maybe I didn't answer something, or later today you think of a question, you have the opportunity to text us. And the number there on your screen is our number that you can text. And we typically try to get back to you within about 24 hours. If it's a weekend, you know, we want you to be a little more flexible with us if you can, maybe 48 hours, but every question is relevant. So you can ask questions about student health and wellbeing services. You can ask questions about other campus resources. You can ask questions about community resources. So we are very open to answering your questions. And if we don't know the answer, we will find out and get back to you. So student health and wellbeing services is comprised of 3 areas or 3 departments. So we have our medical services, so the Student Health Center, our counseling services, as well as health education. And we will get into all of those areas. My screen is not advancing. Oh, here we go. So to start off, medical, counseling, and health education are all accredited. And what that means is that we have an outside organization that comes in every 3 years to make sure that we're giving you the best information. We're providing the best services. So it's important that you know that. We feel strongly about meeting you where you're at and making sure that we're addressing your needs. And we really want to support your academic success, but we also want to support your physical, emotional, psychological well-being. So that's all about student health and wellbeing services. So student medical services are services that are available to you. We have a medical facility on campus. Our building is located just off Library Circle. So if you're local, you can come see us. We do have most of our hours during the day, so Monday through Friday, normal business hours. We're closed during most holidays and winter break and fall break and things like that. We do ask that you call to make an appointment. That's the ideal way, especially right now, and that's our phone number. But you know, if there's something really pressing, say for instance, you have something, it's not an emergency situation where you need to go to the ER, but something like you fall off your skateboard like I did and you're bleeding, you can just go directly to the health center. You don't need to call and make an appointment. So other things that might need to be addressed more acutely, like you're having severe pain, you're bleeding, those kind of things, you can just come right over to the building. But for appointments, you can just give us a call. We provide many different appointments, so that might include making an appointment to get STD screening or STI screening. It might be that you're having some questions about a medication you're taking, or you want to talk to a provider about depression or anxiety, or you just have a rash or a sore throat. Just give us a call and we'll work with you to make an appointment. One of the important things to know, hopefully you've already done this, but we do need your immunization records. And so you can go to your student health portal. This is a great place to go to upload your immunization records. It's very important that you do that because unfortunately it's possible that there could be a hold on your registration next semester if you don't provide us with those immunizations. And if you have any trouble with the website or the health portal or any questions in general, you can just give us a call and we'll work through that with you. We have a pharmacy on site, and so Melissa is great. She's able to typically fill prescriptions that are prescribed by our providers within an hour, so it's very fast. She also has a lot of over-the-counter medications and whatnot that you might get at an off-campus pharmacy, but a lot of the ones that she has are at a reduced cost because we're able to do that for you. We also have a laboratory, so we're able to do different types of testing, and we also have Blake, our x-ray tech, and so he can do all your x-rays for you. So in general, your student fees pay for sort of the basic appointments, acute care, that kind of thing. But it's also important to know that there are some small fees associated with some of the visits. So say for instance, you're getting an x-ray done, there is a cost for that. First pharmacy, different medications, there are costs. Now, we don't take insurance, we don't take cash or anything like that. So what happens is you will receive a charge in your student account, and so you'll just pay that later. So again, we really want you to make those appointments by phone. We do have medical providers on call to talk with you Monday through Friday during regular business hours. And so with these medical providers, they may be able to address your issues right over the phone, or maybe they'll encourage you to make that appointment. So we'll work with you to kind of figure out whether or not you need to come in or not. We are providing COVID testing, so especially for all students that are moving into the residence halls, those students will receive testing. And then if you're local and want to get testing, you can call and make an appointment, or you can go outside the building. We actually just set up a very large tent today, and so we're doing testing outside as well. So one of the things that's really exciting is I had a student many years ago come to me and say, you know, Mira, we really need vending machines and have condoms available, you know, more readily available for students. And so what we did is we heard that, and we were able to install 3 vending machines on campus. And these vending machines have a lot of just basic healthcare supplies. So, you know, allergy medicine, Aleve, Tylenol, cough drops, antacids, things like that. And all of those things are under $4. So we really feel strongly to make sure that these are affordable to you. We also have in these machines something called emergency contraception, or also known as the morning after pill. And so that is available to you for $11. And what's important to know is that if you were to go to an outside pharmacy, it would typically be between like $50 and $70. So you can go to these vending machines and just get what you need. We accept cash and cards, no J points, sorry about that. Currently, there's a mistake on this slide. It's on, the one vending machine is on the 3rd floor of the Jolly Giant Commons building, just down past the info desk. The other one is in College Creek, just next to the mail room. The other thing to know is we're working on getting thermometers. So we're going to put thermometers in these vending machines, and those thermometers will be free for you. So we really try to get you what you need. And if you have thoughts about things that you want us to put in the vending machines, just let us know and we'll work on doing that. So counseling and psychological services. So both health and counseling are located in the same building. Again, right off Library Circle in that building. The counseling center, when open, is on the 2nd floor. So for this semester, for fall semester, they're open only for virtual appointments. So again, Monday through Friday, regular business hours, everything is done through a Zoom platform that's totally secure. So no one can, get in there or anything. What you'll want to do is call their phone number, and then they can work with you to set up an appointment. So they're absolutely wonderful group of people. We have psychiatrists, we have, psychotherapists, we have residents, just lots of people that really care and want to work with you around your mental health. So they provide sort of that one-on-one talk therapy, but they also provide couples counseling. And when we say couples counseling, that could be 2 people in a relationship, but it also could be multiple people in a relationship. They also offer group therapy, drop-in groups, and mindfulness and skill workshops. So let's take a look. So these groups are sort of broken up into 2 areas. So there's groups that are what we call closed. So you might be working with a therapist and they identify there might be a group that meets weekly throughout the semester that you could benefit from. And that's considered like a closed group. So those groups typically are looking at depression, anxiety, grief and loss, healthy relationships, and survivors of rape and sexual abuse. So those are great groups. The other groups are drop-in groups. So these are groups where you can kind of come and go. You don't necessarily have to make a commitment to go every week. You can go one time, you can go every once in a while, whatever works for you and your schedule. So it's really flexible. The alcohol and other drugs group, I just want to point out, is a really amazing group led by staff psychologist Ned Peck. And this group is not a 12-step group or an abstinence-only group. It's a group for people to talk about, their use with alcohol and other drugs, and just sort of what your thoughts are about it, whether or not you need any support, whether you want to, maybe talk to other people who are in similar situations. So it's just really about harm reduction and making sure that you have good information and support. So you can see here, there's a lot of other groups as well. Self-improvement, first-generation support, mindfulness, meditation, international student support, trans support group, and women of color support group. Now, we have these listed here, but I should say, given the context of our situation right now, some may be offered and some may not be. So it's really going to be important for you to check the website or call the counseling center to find out which groups are available and, good for you. So because the health center is closed in the evenings and on the weekends, what we've done is set up we've set up a contract with a company so that you can talk to a nurse 24/7. So you can call this number here And you'll be able to talk with a nurse, 3 in the morning, and they can work with you to figure out, if you need to make an appointment, or if you're able to just work with them and figure out, okay, everything's fine. I just needed to talk to somebody. The counseling center is also available after hours. So it's their regular phone number, but when they're closed, this number connects to therapists that we also work with. So again, any time of day that we're closed, you can have access to nursing and therapy. So the other one is the campus advocate team, which you kind of just heard about. I popped into your meeting. So again, they're 24/7. They're comprised of counselors through the North Coast Rape Crisis Team. They are able to provide, individual support if you're somebody who's experienced sexual assault, dating violence, intimate partner violence, stalking, any of those things. Or if you're somebody who's, a friend or a loved one, and you're just wanting to process your own feelings and thoughts, they're a great resource. Now, they're not mandated reporters. They're not connected to the university. They don't report to the dean of students or the police. So they're totally, totally confidential. A great resource. We also have 2 emergency rooms. So the Mad River Hospital and St. Joseph's Hospital. So for those of you that are local, one is in Eureka, one is in Arcata. The other thing to know that's not on this list, which is a really important one, is Redwood Urgent Care. So say, for instance, the health center is closed, like me, you crashed your skateboard and you're bleeding and you broke your wrist, and it's not something you need to go to an emergency room for, you can go to Redwood Urgent Care and they'll be able to help you. So again, it's not an emergency room, but it's definitely a great resource to know about, and they're in Eureka. So health education. So I mentioned that I work for Student Health and Wellbeing Services, but my main job is to not only support the clinic and do a lot of trainings for them, but I also oversee our health education department. And so you see here a picture of some of our beautiful peer educators. We feel really strongly that the best way to get information to students is by other students. So we hire students and we train them to provide information about health and well-being. So, if that's something you're interested in, definitely keep us in mind, because we love working with students and hiring students. So yeah. So health education comprises of 3 areas. So Check It, OSNAP student food programs, and our peer health program. So Check It is a bystander intervention program that really focuses on enthusiastic consent. It looks at violence as unacceptable and making it so that we offer trainings about how to intervene when we see potential moments of harm. And in thinking about that, the trainings really focus on making sure those interventions are consistent with who you are and what makes sense for you, right? So for me, if I'm a shy person, I may not go up to somebody directly and say, hey, what you're doing is not okay. I might say to a friend, I need some help in intervening in this situation. Or I might be somebody who is more extroverted, and I might go up to them and drop, my beer on their shoe and be like, hey, what you're doing is not okay. So we really work with folks to make sure that we're leading conversations about interventions that work for every individual. The OSNAP program I'll talk about in a minute, as well as Peer Health. One of the things that's really important in terms of our health education department is we really focus on social justice and identity. So our identities is directly connected to health and well-being. We also are not folks that try to change behavior using techniques of fear, shame, or guilt. We do quite the opposite. We really come from a place of compassion. And so you will see that as you engage with our programs. So the OSNAP Student Food Program was developed by students in collaboration with some of our staff on campus many years ago. It looks a little different because we've transitioned, and I'll talk about that. But basically, students run this food program, and students can come in and get non-perishable foods once a week. We also offer a farm stand. So we work with a local farmer and Ed Cohen actually brings us beautiful fresh fruit, vegetables, fruits. And so we're able to provide that to students once a week and possibly this semester twice a week. And what's so cool about that is that, you know, some people have never tried, I mean, you can see Za in the middle, she's holding a basket of vegetables. Like, some people have never tried an acorn squash or fresh kale. And so we are able to provide recipes and tips about what to do with these types of produce. And then it's really fun because then students will come back and say, hey, I tried this and I did this. And so it's really a cool place to share different ideas. The picture on the right is Eran, and she's surrounded by clothing. So one of the things that we do, although we're not able to do it right now because of COVID, but it will come back, is that we have pop-up thrift stores. So we take gently used items from folks that don't need those items anymore, and then we sell them to students at a very, very reduced cost. So clothing, shoes, bicycles, all of that, super, super inexpensive. We also have cooking classes, nutrition education. And when I say that, it's really important for us that we're not just giving students like a can of beans or here's some food. We really educate about where did this food come from? What are the food systems that we're talking about? What is food sovereignty? So it's really important that it's about giving food, but it's also about providing education. And it's also about destigmatizing getting these types of services. So these are all available to you. Everything that we do in health education is totally free for you. We do also work with folks that need to sign up for CalFresh. So CalFresh is also known as EBT. And so CalFresh is, you basically sign up and you get a card, and that card has money in it so it can supplement your monthly, food budget. If you are living on campus and you have a meal plan, you typically don't qualify, but we can certainly work with you to figure out other resources, if you need them. Oh, I should also say that we offer classes around composting, we offer classes about, different seeds. We've definitely given out lots of different seeds. We educate about, maybe growing a little herb garden in your small apartment or in your residence hall. So we really try to, make sure that what we're doing in our education resonates with you. So it's not just like, oh, just go build a whole garden. That's not really feasible, right? So we try to really, understand where you're coming from. And that really is rooted in the fact that we have students that work for us, that we hire students in all of our health education programs to really guide where we go with all of this. So in terms of OSNAP and food for this semester, we have relocated. So typically the health education programs, the OSNAP, Check It, Pure Health, are all in the recreation center, which is just off the track or football field. But for now, because of COVID, we've moved to the bottom floor of the Jolly Giant Commons, or also known as the JGC. So for the first 2 weeks of classes, we're gonna be only open on Fridays. So that would be August 28th and September 4th from 10 to 3. And then you can see here, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, starting September 7th, will be open those hours. So what happens is when you come to us, we have you stand outside, distance 6 feet apart. We ask that you are wearing a face covering, and if you don't have one, we can provide you one. So we have them available for you. And we only take one person at a time. And so what happens is you can get a vegetarian, vegan, or meat bag of non-perishables, and then that's supplemented with all the produce, so all the vegetables. So it's really a great thing, and you can come once a week. And again, if you're a fully matriculated student, which probably many of you are, you can come see us. Again, we'll help you with signing up for CalFresh, so that food supplement your monthly budget, and then also for Medi-Cal, which is a type of insurance, basically. The best way to get assistance is to make an appointment with our health educators or with our student educators who are also trained to help with this type of assistance. So if you go to our OSNAP website, you'll be able to make those appointments. The cooking classes. So you'll learn if you get to know me, I love feeding people. And so one of the things that we did is started cooking classes. And we're really trying to get creative about reimagining what cooking classes will look like for this semester. So what we're thinking right now is they'll be virtual. And what we'll do is we'll have a box where you can come to the JGC when we're open, those Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday times. And you can pick up the ingredients that would be used in that cooking class for that evening. So you take that, you go back to your kitchen or wherever you're living, and then you can follow along with our instructor. Again, just go ahead and check our website to get more information. So the OSNAP food programs, lots of different ways to get in touch with us. Lots of social media ways. You should all have this PowerPoint presentation, so I'm not gonna leave it here for too long. Definitely don't call the phone right now just because we're not in the office, which I think is obvious, but just I want to point that out. So. And then we have OSHER. So this is a sister program. This is where we talk with people about insurance. So like I said, the health center does not accept insurance. You don't need insurance to come to the health center for counseling or for medical. One thing to know is that many students have Medi-Cal through either their parents or their guardians, and it may be, if you're not local, that Medi-Cal would have been set up in a different county. So if you're somebody who's planning on moving to Humboldt and planning to get much of your medical services taken care of in Humboldt long-term, then you may want to talk with us about transferring that Medi-Cal locally. If you're somebody who plans on maybe traveling back to wherever you're coming from, or Bay Area, LA, wherever it is, then you may want to, and you plan on following up with your medical providers there, you may choose to keep your Medi-Cal where it is. So it's kind of something that you just want to think about. So we can help you with that. We can help you with ACA sign-ups, it's another insurance. And then I'll talk about Family Pack in just a second. So one thing to know is that Humboldt, the area of Humboldt does not accept Kaiser. And that is really unfortunate because we find that there's quite a few of our students that do come that have Kaiser. So Kaiser can be used in an emergency situation, like an ER or something, but for just basic care, we do not have anyone accepting Kaiser. So you will need to plan on addressing medical services that aren't addressed by the health center outside of our local area. For those of you not familiar with Humboldt, we're pretty far north, and so the closest Kaiser facility might be 4 or 5 hours away. So just something to think about. Again, we can help you with those transfer for your Medi-Cal if that's something that you need. If you're planning on being local, or if you are local and you're wanting to use your insurance here in Humboldt County, I would encourage you to start calling around and seeing who is accepting insurance, who is taking new patients, and don't wait until you really need to get in. Because sometimes living in this rural community, it can take a little bit of time to get into an office. So this is one of my favorite programs. This is the Family Pact program. So this is a program just in the state of California. We're very, very lucky to have this. And this program pays for reproductive health care services for folks that don't have insurance to cover it. So when I say reproductive health services, this includes, your sexually transmitted infections testing, pregnancy testing, medications to treat, any number of issues related to your reproductive system. It covers birth control and IUDs, pills, patches, rings, all of that stuff, testicular exam, breast exams, it covers all of that. If you have insurance and it's through your parents or your guardian, and you want to keep your reproductive health services confidential from them, then we can sign you up for this funding source. And this is a great funding source because it can be used at any family planning clinic in the state of California. So that includes Planned Parenthood and Eureka, as well as other family planning clinics in the state. So, peer health education. So again, we hire a lot of students to work with other students around health and well-being. Some of the top issues are sexual health, mental health, and alcohol and other drugs. So again, typically we're in the Recreation and Wellness Center, but everything that they'll be doing this semester will be virtual. So we'll have our OSNAP student food program set up in the JGC, but our peer health education program will be all virtual. One of the things to know about all of us in health education is, again, we are very much an organization deeply rooted in being socially just and queer-centered, as well as judgment-free. So we will not judge you if you come talk to us about any particular topic. There is no judgments from us. And sometimes, you know, we may not think we have a judgment, and so we also hold each other accountable. Just like with the Check It program in health education, we're also holding each other accountable when we see something that maybe just doesn't feel quite right. So one of the programs with health education or with the peer educators is Humboldt Haze. And this is something that was developed by students because they really wanted to educate their peers about alcohol and other drugs in a way that was really supportive. So in a way around harm reduction. And the harm reduction is basically, we believe we need to give you accurate information so that you can make an informed decision. So we might talk to you about your use with alcohol and other drugs and just process with you, you know, what's working, what's not working, what resources do you need that are, you know, maybe not available to you right now, what can we connect you to? So we really try to meet you where you're at. It's not a just say no, it's not a we're going to shame you, anything like that. It's all about harm reduction. We talk a lot about party culture, how to stay safe, drug culture. You know, an example of this, just a quick example of this is I do a lot of education about opioid overdose prevention, right? So we know that in the United States, there's a lot of opioid overdose. So I train people about how to identify these types of overdoses and then provide medication to reverse that possible overdose. So that's an example of sort of the harm reduction model that we use. Our university wants you to definitely know that Humboldt State University is a smoke-free campus, and that is enforced. So no cigarettes, vape, no marijuana. Even if anything is legal outside of campus, you're not able to smoke on campus. So preferred names and pronouns. I actually don't like the word preferred because I think it's important to recognize it's someone's name and pronoun. So I worked with our IT department to set it up so that specifically our transgender students, although anyone can use this, can go to the Student Center and actually change the name that was given to them at birth or the gender marker that was given to them at birth and change it to be consistent with how they identify. And also know that if you're somebody who is interested in talking with medical providers locally about, you know, transition or hormones or testosterone or any of those things, definitely let me know. I can connect you. And then we also have great resources about how to actually legally change your name. So definitely try to be as supportive as we can for our transgender, gender variant, gender and fluid individuals who are part of our community. So this is how you get in touch with Peer Health Education. And again, don't call us because we're not there. But maybe you're somebody who maybe was a part of a GSA in your high school, or you were, an educator that taught about alcohol and other drugs or suicide prevention, and you're interested in continuing that work. All of our programs do hire students, and we also have volunteer opportunities. So we'll definitely have that information available to you on our website, and then we'll just be putting out blasts across campus as well. So definitely lots of opportunities to get involved. So the interactive wellbeing map is basically a place where you can get information about everything that I'm talking to you today about in one location, and it's hosted in Canvas. And Canvas is the platform that you'll use for your academics. So the wellbeing map is kind of broken up into different areas. So we have events that are happening on campus, and obviously most of them are going to be virtual. And then we also have landmarks. So these landmarks are physical locations that provide you additional resources. So they may be related to student health and wellbeing services, but we also include other things. Like we might include the cultural centers, we might include the financial aid office. So we want to make sure that we're connecting you to all the different areas that are going to help support your well-being while you're a student at HSU. Again, many ways to get involved. You can apply to be, somebody who can be interviewed to work for us next year. Lots of great opportunities. And just know that there's also many different disciplines on campus that you do need to do an internship. We do take interns, and we do feel strongly about paying our interns. So just know that. So the CIYs, the Choose It Yourself. Now these are workshops that are actually developed and led by students. So we train students around these different health topics. And these are health topics that we actually were told by students like you what they wanted to know about. So we had our students in collaboration with many medical providers to develop these different types of workshops. So if you're somebody who's like, I'm really struggling with how to get a good night's sleep, that's a workshop for you. There's two different ways to get kind of connected with these CIYs. So you can go to the live one, kind of like what we're doing right now, and then ask questions while it's happening. Or you can choose to watch it later at your convenience. Maybe it's 3 in the morning and you want to learn more about nutrition or body image. You can do that as well. So here is a picture of 2 of our health educators. That's Joe and Raven. So Raven is the one I mentioned in the beginning that made this PowerPoint presentation. And Joe is new to our team, but totally wonderful. And then Mary Sue, who coordinates our Check It program. You will definitely learn more about Check It. It's an amazing program that was developed by students. And it's just absolutely wonderful. The other thing that I want to remind you of is that we're living in a pandemic. This is uncharted territory. So I want to really encourage you to reach out at any time you're feeling a little stressed, a little sad, a little blue. We're here to support you. Student Health and Wellbeing Services is definitely here to support you. So I see there are a lot of questions, which is great, really, really great. And so Dr. Turnbow, if I can turn it over to you.
Yes, so because we are right at time and there are so many questions, Mira, do you have a few minutes to stick around
Sure.
and just turn your video off and mute and then answer the questions like via text? That way, all of our students can still get their questions answered. Mira can hang on a little bit longer. So if you have more health, it's good that you have questions. That means you're listening and intrigued and that sort of thing. And so continue to drop them in the Q&A, and then Mira will spend some time responding to those as we move into our next panel that starts now. So Mira, thank you so much. That was so in-depth. And thank you for being willing to stick on and answer some questions. And you can chat with us via the panelist chat if you have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, we are going to transition to our student life leadership panel. And our student life coordinator, Molly Krezel, is going to coordinate and facilitate that with our students who are joining us right now. So Molly, it is now your shop and you and your students, and let's take it away.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Dr. Turnbow and the orientation team for having us participate in this panel. If I could have all of my club leader panelists go ahead and turn your video on. Keep yourself muted until you speak. We'll get rolling. Okay. Waiting on 2 more and then we'll be good to go. So what I want us to do today is we're going to have some questions that are already prepared for our student leaders, but please drop any questions that you may have for this panel down in the Q&A section like you did for Mira. If there are any follow-up questions that you have, we'll answer them closer to the end unless it directly relates to the question that we're answering right then and there. So to start off with, again, my name is Molly Kressel. I'm the Office of Student Life Coordinator. If you're interested in getting in contact with me, I have my email right up here. It's mjk360@humboldt.edu. And I'm also going to drop in the chat information about the Office of Student Life and the work we do with our clubs and organizations. So if you want to get more information, let us know. Just as a quick activity plug about right now, we're in the transition phase of getting all of our student organizations up and running. So we don't have all of their information ready yet on our organization page called Lumberjack Link, which I believe you all already used for your orientation process. But if you check in about 3 weeks, we're going to have a whole lot more clubs up there. In fact, I already had 14 submissions today to be included on that. So we'll be getting even more coming through. So make sure to keep your eyes on the Lumberjack Link website, and in about 3 weeks, all of our clubs should be up and running. So to start off today, I would love to have our panelists introduce themselves, who they are, what their major is, where is home, and what organizations they're involved in. And if you want to do a little plug for your organization and what they do, that would be great as well. And I'll go ahead and drop that list of questions in the chat for our panelists. So since Aaron, sorry, I've got a plane flying overhead. Since Aaron is my first one on the left side of my screen, I'll have you begin. So your name, what's your major, what clubs are you involved in, and where's home?
Hi everyone, my name is Aaron Foster. I am currently a graduate student in the psychology program here at Humboldt State University. Currently, I'm involved as the current president of the Scholars of Academic Research. Some other clubs I'm a part of are the Psych Club and Psych Chi as well here at Humboldt State. And where I call home currently is Eureka, California, more specifically Cutting area up in the hills. And something like Scholars of Academic Research does is we bring in professors, community leaders, community mentors, people who are doing just really good things for the community, not just Eureka or Humboldt, but out of state, even out of country leaders and researchers. And we like to bring them into Humboldt State to give every student, not just psychology students, a chance to see what is currently going on in the world and give them an opportunity to network and connect with those community leaders to maybe give you an idea of where you want to go after Humboldt State. Some students don't know what they want to do after an associate's or bachelor's or a master's even. And so we try to provide that to our students by bringing in as many people as we can per semester and just give you a fantastic idea of what kind of work's being done. So.
Awesome, thank you, Aaron. So Aaron's a part of Scholars of Academic Research, and I know they're in my office all the time, which I adore. And so this is something great about being a student leader is a lot of people on campus will get to know you, as you will learn more from talking from the rest of the crew. So Martin, you're next on my screen. Take it away.
Hey guys, my name is Martine. I am a kinesiology major. This is going to be my third and final year at HSU. Home is, I'm currently from Coachella, California, which is like, yeah, where actual Coachella Fest is held and stuff. The clubs and organizations that I'm part of, I am part of the Humboldt State baseball and men's volleyball team, as well as I'm part of the HSU kinesiology club.
Awesome. Thank you, Martin. David, you're next. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Molly. So I'm David. Pronouns are he, him. My major is cellular and molecular biology. The student organization I'm in is Associated Students. I am also a major-based peer mentor and a researcher. I'm the administrative vice president in Associated Students, and Associated Students is the recognized student voice for all the students at HSU. So yeah, and I think I'm forgetting one more thing. Oh yes, the place I call home is currently Arcata, California on this very campus. So yeah.
Hey, Blue, you're next.
Hi, I'm Blue. My major, right? I'm a psychology and communications major, but my psychology emphasis is neurology, which is really interesting. I'm originally from Palmdale, which if you guys don't know where that is, it's like where Afro Man's from. That's like the only reason anybody knows anything about Palmdale. And I'm also, it's like from the LA area. And I'm a part of the speech and debate club, as well as I work at the Office of Student Life with Molly, and I work for the communication department, and I also work for admissions. So you will pretty much see me all over campus all the time. I'm like kind of everywhere and nowhere at once. But yeah.
Hey, Alondra, I have you next up on my screen. I don't think we can hear you. Nope, not yet. Why don't you keep working on that sound? And I'm going to pass it over to Andrew. Andrew, would you be able to share a little bit about your name, where's home, what club you're involved in, and your major?
Sure thing. I'm not sure why my computer name won't change to my actual name. Sorry. I'm Andrew Russell. I'm a forestry major at Humboldt State University. Home for me originally would be the Midwest in Illinois, but my family about several years back migrated to Southern California, so now we're in the Mojave Desert. I'm involved in a couple of different organizations. First off, I work for the Office of Student Life with Molly, Alondra, and Blue, and I'm a part of the Kappa Sigma fraternity, and I'm also part of the InterVarsity Bible Club, and I'm just, yeah, that's the clubs I'm involved with here on campus.
Sounds good. I was going to say, I didn't think your name was Molly. I'm pretty sure I'm Molly.
Yep.
Okay. Alondra, let's see if your sound works now.
It's not working. Hello? Yeah, it's working.
It's on. Yep, go for it.
Okay. So my name's Alondra. I'm a business major, and right now I'm not living at the campus. I'm living in Lake Elsinore. It's in California. And I work at the Student Life office, and it's actually really great. We're involved with a lot of clubs, and if you need any resources or anything for any specific club, it's really a great place. But personally, I'm in a few clubs. I do Hermanas Unidas and the Entrepreneurs Club. So yeah, that's about me.
Awesome. And I believe last year Alondra actually won in a competition for Startup Weekend, which was put on by the Entrepreneurs Club in collaboration with Google. And so it's a really cool where they propose ideas and then they get all these like free things from Google to help start their business. So shout out to that. So I would love for you all to kind of jump in and tell me how you found out about your clubs in the first place or the organizations you're involved in.
Can I go? Okay. So the way that I found out about speech and debate was I asked my Communication 100 professor if there was a speech and debate team, and he literally pointed to the wall, and there was a poster that said, "Yes, we have a speech and debate team," and had all of the contact information. And I thought it was the funniest, like, best advertisement. And I was like, oh, I have to, like, go to this. So I went, and the instructor is Aaron Donaldson, and I've taken so many classes with him since then, and like it's opened so many opportunities for me. He recently wrote about me and ended up getting me a Student of the Year award, which was really cool also. I don't know, it's just been a lot of great opportunities. It's really awesome.
Who else wants to share how they found out about the organizations?
Personally, it kind of almost the same to Blue. I was kind of looking for a club, and I walked by my undergraduate advisor's office one day, and she literally yells my name down the hall. So I, backtrack, go into her office, and she's like, "Hey, how come you're not a part of this club?" And it was Scholars of Academic Research. It's like, well, I've never heard of it. How do I join? And she just looks at me and she goes, "Congratulations, you're in. Like, you're now our treasurer." And it's like, I don't know a thing about being a treasurer. And she's like, "Well, you have about 2 weeks to learn. Here's a book, get on it." And then I just kind of evolved from there. And so now I've been a part of it for the last 2.5 years, and I don't regret my decision. It's been a blast working with everybody.
So sometimes it's definitely something that you're just kind of like thrown in. If you're interested, they welcome you on board. Martin, how about you? I know Rec Sports is a group that a lot of our clubs are interested in. How did you find out about Rec Sports?
So Rec Sports, so I was a transfer student from community college to HSU. So when I came to Humboldt, I was like the only person from my community college that was attending HSU. So I didn't have any friends, I didn't have any family members. So the reason why I was like kind of interested in club sports was like, I played sports in high school. I wanted to keep on being active. So I found like the office, someone gave me a flyer, and then I saw like some of the teams that are offered. I think there's like a total of like 15 club sports that are competitive, and the other 3 are non-competitive: wrestling, acro yoga, and one more, which I cannot think on top of my head, but yeah. And then I saw men's volleyball, which was the first one I joined. Madi, I met Madi and like a bunch of other guys. Like, they were pretty sick. I love them. I love the vibe from the team. And then they needed an officer, and I was like, you know what? I'll do it. I'll be the safety officer. Like, I'm a kines major. Like, I can do it. And then that was from like my first semester. And then towards the end of fall, literally me and my friend, we were just jogging like on the track, and then she met her friend who was on the baseball team, and he's like, "Yo, like, we can totally like use you like to play on the team." I was like, "Okay, I'll join." I went out. I loved the team as well, so I stuck with baseball and volleyball. They even threw me into the vice president position, so I was like, okay, well, I gotta stay for the VP position. And yeah, like both teams are pretty good. And then the reason why I do recommend people to join club sports is because, like, one, like, you're meeting like you're having like that team bonding experience. You're meeting new people, and also it gives like an opportunity to student athletes that were from high school and transitioning to college a much more easier like time, because yeah, like and plus like you wanted to continue keep on playing sports, like it's awesome. So yeah.
Awesome. So for the sake of time, why don't we move on to our next question? How has your involvement in a club or organization impacted your experience at HSU?
I'll hop on this one. Joining Associated Students has completely shaped how I manage my time and how I am as a student. Even in the short time that I've been involved with it, it has really helped me like grow some really awesome organization skills and how to like the simple things of how into learning how to write an email on a frequent basis, or how to be involved and know the understandings of how like the university as a whole works. And that's been something that has been really awesome. It's showing you how to be a college student and what it means to be involved. Is yeah, that's just what I've really gotten out of it so far.
For me personally, it's taught me how to love taking notes, but I guess that's just specifically because I literally just take notes for an hour for debate. I mean, it's really fun, but that's basically what I do. And so I get to take a lot of notes in meetings and stuff, and it's helped me a lot with my memory, which has helped me a lot with studying, and in turn helped me a lot with my grades. On top of that, debate has opened a lot of different networking opportunities for me, and so that's how I got a lot of the jobs that I have on campus, all three of the jobs that I have on campus. And I've met like a bunch of really cool people and worked with a lot of departments, which has been like really amazing as well. I mean, it makes my resume look great, but also it makes my heart feel good. So win-win.
I'll go ahead and go. So going off kind of what Blue said, your involvement on campus really can help build you up as who you are as a person as you start from your freshman year all the way up through your senior year and when you graduate. As Blue said, the networking is a great tool to use when you're part of different clubs and organizations and fraternities and sororities on campus, because then you get involved and know a lot of different people that can help you navigate through college and help you when you need something and this and that. And for example, freshman year of college had botany class with Blue, and she's the one that helped me get my job I have now currently with the Office of Student Life. And that was because we used to study together and work on botany. And then what do you know? You network, and then you find I ended up getting a job with the help of her because we studied botany. Nothing at all related to the Office of Student Life. That's the crazy cool thing about college is it's who you know and who you talk to and how you network. Build those relations and go out there and get involved, and it'll really help you out in the long run.
I can speak to this one. I really honestly have loved my time at HSU because I have been involved, whether it's with a specific organization or not. It's just great to go out and get involved in events. Like when the campus is open, there's tabling and there's different events going on, like on different parts of campus. I remember one of the first events I worked on with Molly was a escape room, so there's like super fun stuff to do all the time. And I think it's just really important to get out there and meet people. And it definitely heightens your experience. Like I've been to conferences, events, many opportunities opened up for me because I took the chance to go out and, become involved. So it's just the activity or the active looking of becoming involved that will really make a difference in your experience.
Awesome. So if you all could share any tips for new to HSU students, what would you share with them? And this doesn't have to be related to organizations. This is just in general. Any tips that you have, go back to when you first started here. What would you do differently, or maybe what really helped you be successful?
Talk to your professors. They're humans too. A lot of the times they just want to sit down and have a conversation. I've had so many professors that are like, I just sit in my office for like 5 hours waiting for students to come by and nobody ever does. And it honestly makes their day. And not only that, but it gets you recognition in the class, which in turn can end up helping your grade a lot because they know who you are. And so if you're like missing classes and you want to talk to them and explain what's going on, they're more likely to give you extensions or work with you than for you to just shut them out, and for in turn for them to shut you out and then your grade to suffer for that, or your educational experience in general to suffer for that.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to echo what Blue said, because it's helped me a lot, because when I got here, I was scared of anybody who had the name doctor in their name, like absolutely terrified. But as Blue was saying, a lot of these professors just want you to come in just to say hi. You know, especially if you go to leave at HSU and you need a letter of recommendation or something that will help you advance your career further, it really helps these professors to know who you are, your name, what you did in the class, how active you were. Because if you were just the kid who sat in the back, they'll still do it, but the letter of recommendation might not be up to par, just because, you know, to them, you just kind of sat in the back. But if you go up to them and you just say hi, just say, hey, my name is blank, this is what I'm interested in, it tells them so much more about you. And a lot of professors will actually go out of their way and bend over backwards to actually get you to where you need to be. So a couple of psychology professors I've seen write letters to their mentors to get some of our HSU students to these universities to help them in their future. So yeah, just reach out to your professors, just say hi to start, and I can almost guarantee you it'll all unfold from there, and you'll be happy you did it.
And I'm going to add on another question to this question. So we're answering still, what tips do you have for new to HSU students? But also, how do you break that ice when you're speaking to a new professor? I know that my first 2 years, that was one of the hardest things. So being a new student, how do you break the ice to talk to these staff and faculty? Go for it.
I personally will look at a question that I have for the week, and I'll go to their office, and especially if it's something that I'm interested in, that I want to learn more about, I'll be like, hey, you talked about this, do you know anything about this? Or like, do these things connect? And just that like starts a conversation, and you can find a lot of common ground, which makes you more comfortable and then more likely to like feel comfortable discussing further things and like just becoming personal with each other, which is really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I think bouncing off of that exactly is saying, you know, taking those little steps of faith in everything you kind of do, taking those little steps, like, I don't know, when we were in person, I would say, you know, take that step and try that new J meal that you found, or taking that new step and reaching out to that friend that you've always heard talk about something cool in class or something, you know, taking those little steps each time and starting off with the simple introduction of who you are. I know that can be really difficult sometimes, but just the worst thing that they can do is say no, you know, and I know how hard that alone must sound. No is a really mean term sometimes, but other times, you know, it's great. And I really encourage you guys just to take those little steps everywhere you can. Keep on taking those little steps, because they'll open doors left and right. You know, those steps are stopping those doors from closing. Exactly. So, yeah.
So what other tips do you have for new to HSU students?
If I may, this is kind of like a subtopic, I guess, but just breaking away from professors, I guess don't be afraid to talk to your colleagues or other other students in general. You know, don't be afraid to approach. You know, if you're a transfer, if you're a fresh person, no matter what, don't be afraid to approach graduate students or seniors, people who have been here, and just ask for help. Personally, I want to be an instructor when I graduate, and so I involve myself with students. I basically get any job I can that puts me around students, that puts me in a teaching position, because I love helping students. So I invite students to come and email me about the programs in the psych department, about the store, or just general questions about Humboldt State. I answer them to the best of my ability or get them help. You know, if it's a club question and I can't answer it, I'll send them to Molly. If it's a question about the psych department, I'll send them to my chair. If it's about a specific field in psychology, I'll send them to that professor. And so don't be afraid to approach some of the graduate students or seniors, because they are just as helpful as your professors can be, and they will get you the help or the information that you're looking for just as much as the professor will. So use the resources, and the students who have been here are definitely part of those resources.
Any final thoughts before I move on to our next question? And for those in attendance, definitely check out the chat. We are dropping a lot of links and a lot of information there. Our folks are going to be dropping some of their organization information as well if you're interested in finding out more of them. And we also have included some of our department links as well. Okay, so our next question for our panel is, what skills have you gained or what have you learned since being involved at HSU?
I'll go. What I learned a lot from HSU and skills and stuff, I learned that it's okay to fail, because I know like everybody thinks like, oh, I have to get this perfect, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, in reality, it's not what really happens. Like, yeah, you are not gonna learn, you're not gonna get a topic like right on the spot, or like for athletics, like you're not gonna be able to hit a single or doubles or triples like right away. That like, yeah, like failing, what I consider failing is progression. Like a lot of my, one of my professors from the kinesics department, she mentioned like, she said like, you have to remember, you're gonna try, you're gonna fail, you're gonna try, and you're gonna fail. And you're gonna try again, but eventually all that right there is considered progression. And what she said, she even said like, progress is a bunch of failures. So I always took that, what she said, like either for when I'm playing for volleyball or baseball, or whenever I'm in the class and I don't get a topic, like I always like, okay, let's keep on going until eventually I do get it.
I have a couple. So I've learned a couple really important things. First of all, learn to love a challenge, kind of piggybacking off of what Martine was saying. It's really important. We're all piggybacking off each other. But it's really important to learn to love a challenge and be like, oh, okay, well, I thought I was going to get an A on this, so let me work a little bit harder to like get that A next time. But also switching my mindset from I have to do this thing to I get to do this thing, because it actually like changes your neural pathways and actually like ends up making you have more joy for what you're doing, and gets you more excited in the morning and all that kind of stuff. And then also like a big thing that I've learned in debate, which I know that a lot of people have trouble with public speaking, is that anytime I feel nervous before I'm about to give a presentation or about to, do a test or anything like that, I'm like, am I nervous or am I excited? Because my brain doesn't know the difference. So I might just be excited. And that helps a lot with like my mood and like all of that kind of stuff too.
I would say one of the biggest things that I've learned is how to juggle. Juggling has been really, really big. And also learning prioritizing while juggling is also a whole nother thing that I've really, like, we can say we can juggle 3 things, but if the most highest priority thing, our grades are slipping still, but we're still juggling, it's kind of redundant. So remembering to keep track of your grades and your priorities along with your juggling of all the things you're doing, because it's really fun to do all the things you do. You just got to do it in a way that's sustainable.
What I would have to say is, since I've been involved at HSU here, obviously you come to college with a certain set of skills already that you've worked on throughout high school and community college and such, like social skills, time management, things of that matter. But as you go throughout college and in your involvement, the skills I would say has helped sharpen me when it comes to my time management with the classes, balancing class work, my fraternity and the clubs I'm a part of on campus, as well as socially engaging, making sure I have time for, like hanging out with my friends, balancing and keeping up my good grade and GPA, and on top of fraternity aspects of things. It's just like a big thing. As someone was talking about juggling, I believe David, yeah, that's what college is all about. You really it helps you build your social skills and time management and juggling. You got to put the levels of importance. Obviously classes come first because that's why we're all here. And then underneath that, you got to label what is of most importance after that on down the line to help build your time management skills and keep up your social skills, because college is really important and it's also a lot of fun, but you got to make sure you figure out how you're going to balance that. And for me, that's some of the skills that I've helped build a lot more than when I came here 2 years ago in 2018. So yeah.
Okay. Feel free to continue answering some of the questions I've already asked as well, but I want to make sure I get to some of our audience questions. So the next question we have is it smart to get a job and be a part of a student organization?
My question to that student is, how many units are you taking? Because I know I have friends that, God bless them, they're taking 21 units in student organizations and have a job on top of that other job that they've been doing for 4 years. So are they sane? Do they sleep? I don't know. But definitely there's also a lot of really awesome opportunities out there where there's student organizations that pay you for the work that you do. I know a lot of people on this panel are getting paid for their extracurriculars. So that's something you can do where you double up. So I would say, depending on your major, it's all different for every major and every college. 16 science units aren't the same as 16 economic units. Not every class is equal with that. So balancing that. So I would say stick around that 14 to 16 unit range. You could probably get a good part-time job and join a student organization, and you could, that's a good juggling there. But again, it's up to every person and how they do their work. It changes for everybody. So there's no one size fits all.
Yeah, no, like it's rough. Like juggling a work, school, and a clubbing event, it's hard. Like I remember I did that one semester. It was my first spring semester here. I took 19 units. I was working for HSI STEM, and I was playing in 2 sports clubs and the kinesiology club. It was a lot. I do recommend people to make sure you schedule everything right, because you have to schedule your courses. For me, it was practices, work, homework, studying. So there's a lot of things to schedule. But once you have your schedule down,
I personally really like staying busy. I was in 4 different clubs in high school and had a job and was still going to high school. So for me personally, I really like having multiple jobs and also being a part of a club. But I will say it's very exhausting, like everyone else is saying. So even if you do think that oh yeah, I like being really busy, just try to remember to pace yourself, and like everybody else is saying too, create a schedule that works for you, that's realistic, and always try to have a certain amount of hours where you have time to rest throughout the day, because that's really important as well.
Pretty dependent, like everyone else is saying, on whether or not you're able to. But I do have to say my biggest helping hand I've had is getting an on-campus job, because the jobs that are provided on campus are just so supportive, and the supervisors usually understand that, you know, you have school and student organizations going on. So I'm lucky enough to have my great coworkers and supervisors, but if you're looking for off-campus jobs, it might be a little different, but it's I would say it's smart. You know, making money is always a good thing, and if you're able to mentally and physically, and it's something you want to do it.
Yeah, I was going to say several of our panelists right now are currently employed on campus and also actively involved in clubs. So I agree with what everyone says, and gauge what your level's at. So for you all that shared that information, taking into consideration a first semester at HSU, what should be the first things they do during their first semester at HSU in regards to helping to get connected to campus?
Talk to your classmates. Try to converse with your classmates. Feeling included is very important, and wanting to stay around is going to come from that feeling of community and that feeling of like belonging. So I think that finding that wherever that may be for you is very important.
I would have to say, going off of what Blue said, is yes, it's very important to, like I also said earlier, network, get involved with students, help build your rapport your first semester, make new friends, make like-minded individuals in your majors, help get study groups and things of that matter, and that'll help you build up for the rest of your college experience. And on top of that, get involved throughout the campuses, clubs and organizations like the links we've been putting in the chat for you guys. Reach out. I know it's going to be rough this semester because most of us are online, staying at home and things of that matter, but reach out, get a sense of some of the clubs or fraternities and sororities you're interested in, try to get some faces to names, meet some of these people, talk to them, get to see what they're about. Like debate, for example, for Blue, or Kappa Sigma fraternity for me, or the men's baseball team for Martine. Like, just get out there, send out emails, put your name in the pool of their organizations, and try to, because they might be having Zoom calls this semester and things of that matter. So you can try to meet some of the people, make some new friends before you even step foot on campus if you're staying home this semester, like I am, for example. But yeah, just make those connections, find those people, and try to see where you think you could belong. So when you come to campus, for the ones staying home, you can hit the ground running and already have your guys' little cliques, families, groups, whatever you'd like to call them. But yeah.
I would say by far the most important thing is to focus on yourselves at first, building those great habits of getting that self-care, because you're going to be tested during finals week. College finals are a whole nother world, and tested especially even more during midterms week. I think a lot of us feel midterms are a bit more rigorous than finals because you have classes along with the testing. So really focusing on, getting your 7 to 8 hours of sleep, eating your 3 meals, eating right. It's really easy to just pop a ramen in the microwave and call it a day. Really focus on building those personal habits that rejuvenate you, because you're going to be tested several times as you're juggling, as you're going through your classes, as the year goes on, especially in a virtual space when you don't have the awesome redwoods to walk through. So, yeah.
Okay, I do want to just quickly power through some of these questions in the chat. So one of the questions is, will there be virtual clubs due to COVID? And I'm going to give a general answer, and I'll let the team jump in afterwards. Yes, we just opened up organization registration. All of our clubs are going to be functioning virtual this semester. And if we are virtual next semester as well, they will still be virtual, but our hope is that we'll be in person next semester. But for sure, all of our clubs are going to be functioning fully online for this semester of school. Within 2 days of the registration opening, we already have 20 clubs submit their organization registration. So we have And I think over 120 clubs have expressed interest in activating this semester. So by all means, clubs will be active, and I'm pretty sure that our group, just from a thumbs up, give me a thumbs up if the clubs you're involved in are planning on being active this virtual semester. Yep, every single one of them. And so don't worry about getting involved. One of the best ways to get involved, and I'm going to do a super quick share screen, is by checking out the club's website, and in particular under virtual engagement and leadership resources. The third week of school, we're going to have this website fully live, and it's going to have commercials and contact information about all of our student organizations. So make sure you come back and check on this website. We dropped it in the chat a little bit earlier. You can also contact us at clubs@humboldt.edu, and we're more than happy to answer any questions or get you contact information for any of the organizations as they're in the process of activating. That also means that they're going to be hosting some really great engaging events this semester. This is going to be a really wonderful opportunity to get your feet wet and figure out what type of organizations are available, so that when we're in person, you'll already know people and have a community that you've created while you're in the virtual environment. In regards to your question about jobs available on campus and how do you apply and will they be ongoing throughout the year, a lot of jobs right now that are on-campus jobs have gone virtual. That means, for example, my whole staff is all virtual for this semester. In fact, 3 of my 4 staff are in this right now, but we are not the only office that has virtual staff and plans on continuing paying and having folks work virtually. I'm pretty sure that probably Dr. Turnbow knows better than I do, but there's going to be a part-time job fair, a virtual part-time job fair coming up that the Academic and Career Advising Center is putting on. So I'll make sure to drop the link for the Academic and Career Advising Center. Check out their website called Handshake, which has a ton of jobs get posted on there, both for on-campus, we're required to post jobs on there, but also community jobs will be found on there.
Thank you, Molly, for that wrap up. And thank you to our student leaders who joined this afternoon, sharing their experiences, sharing their best tips and tricks and knowledge. It's always great to hear from student leaders on our campus and help our new lumberjacks coming in to kind of know what's some best ways and what's some things that work for you all. So appreciate that. Right now, we are ready to transition. So just like this morning, it is time for your virtual tour with your orientation leaders. So please, 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 if you haven't already, make sure you find the link. I will re-drop it in the chat right now for you, and I'll share my screen. So please make sure this is where we are, 2 p.m. You see find your name here. If you simply click on this link, it will take you to your respective orientation leader and which group you are in. After you're done with your orientation leader, they will give you the final remarks for the day. Thank you again to our Office of Student Life staff and the students who are great leaders on our campus. We much appreciate you. All the rest of the freshmen, go ahead and head out, meet your orientation leaders. Thank you all so much and enjoy.